Hello, maniacs. I'm Simo, aka Black Venom from Flame, and welcome to Tampa Morgue.
What's up? This is Tony, and you're listening to the Tampa Morgue Season 3, Episode 109. And as always, from his studio deep in Tampa Bay, Florida, the one and only Mr. Ed Webb. How is life in the Sunshine State, Mr. Webb?
Mr. Anderson, what is going on, brother?
It's almost Halloween, dude. It's almost Devil's hockey season, which, I mean, it's something I only care about. But, dude, fucking just, it's crazy that it's already October. We're already booking guests for October, trying to figure shit out, man. It's cold as shit here in Lithuania, so things are about getting back to normal again. How are you doing, man? How are you and the family?
Good, man. Everybody is good. Wife was on sick whatever you want to call it, her
Sick leave
deathbed.
or
Yeah, man. She doesn't take off from work, man. But when she gets sick, it goes from 0 to 1,000, man, and it lasts for a couple weeks. Like the cough and the congestion, and she sits up, and dude, she coughs so hard. I'm thinking, man, a lung's gonna pop out. But she don't go to the doctor. You know me, I fucking start feeling it, and it starts to go south. I got no shame in my game. But her, no, she's in there coughing and dying, and I'm like, okay, well,
my
make
wife
your
is
will,
never
get your
sick,
will
dude.
going. Well, she's built up an immunity working at the hospital, man.
Yeah, so I think that's because she's a doctor. That's why I always say, I'm like, well, she's been
got
around
an
everything.
immunity that's built up, man. That's like, if you remember, kids today get sick on a dime. We didn't get sick because we ate dirt and we played
Wow.
in the mud with bugs and fucking disgusting shit, and we built up a tolerance to all the crap in the world. Now kids don't go outside; they sit on a fucking iPad all day. So
Dude, I get sick, I'm on the couch like a 3-year-old whining
yeah,
and dying.
yeah,
It's like
man.
I'm just not good at it, man. It's
Yeah,
you know,
unfortunately, I'm the cook, I'm the plumber, I'm the car mechanic, and I'm the fucking carpenter. So I don't get a day off in this fucker. Yeah,
you
you
gotta do
heard
the
it. I
Tampa
hope they
Morgue.
listen to this too. You fucking heard it. Exactly.
Yeah, you got to do the Tampa Morgue. And we actually opened up the show with Flame, Arts of the Black Wisdom, from the Into the Age of Iron record that came out on Iron Pegasus Records in 2005. And we'll be joined by Simo, a.k.a. Black Venom of Flame. He was also in Urn. Anybody who doesn't remember our Urn episode, that was, we had Yarno on. You know, Yarno was with Barathrum, and now he's with Graves. So he'll be with us in about 20 minutes. Ed, yeah. And actually, we're speaking of the Halloween thing. You really don't have to, your kids are past that dress up for Halloween stage.
Yeah. We're my youngest is 19, so that those days are over.
Do
Which
you
it's
remember what
funny.
your first Halloween outfit as a kid? What you dressed as?
Yeah, Casper the Ghost, man.
I thought you were gonna say Corpse Grinder. Casper the
Nah.
Ghost.
Yeah,
You know,
fuck. But yeah, I hope my neighbor Bob hears this. I know why you said that, you fucker. My neighbor's having a Halloween party, and he's basically said, you got to wear a costume. It's for adults only. And you know my theory. Fuck that. But then my wife was texting with his wife, and I guess he said, Bob said you can come as Corpse Grinder. And my fucking take, no, he could fucking go as me. Fuck that, man. That I was like, you motherfucker, man. I'm always
and the
dealing with.
inside joke to that is, whoever doesn't know, Ed's obviously in Monstrosity now. So Ed we always
Yeah.
joke around with,
Yeah,
anybody heard the
it's
Vincent
joke.
Crowley episode last week? We were talking about it also, that like Ed's played in bands where he's kind of filling shoes of guys who are legends in the scene,
Yep, absolutely. And I
you
respect
had
each and every
Massacre
one of
with
them.
Cam
And
Lee.
for those who know, I'm not shitting on Corpse Grinder, man. I've known Corpse Grinder for fucking 30 years. I toured with him in 2000 when we did the Diabolic run with Hate Eternal. That was their first tour in God Dethroned. It was 6 weeks of absolute mayhem. My gear got stolen on that tour. It was definitely a tour for the ages, and I have Corpse Grinder stories that I won't tell on here. So I have nothing but respect for Corpse Grinder. And he's a legend, dude. He's a beast. And I think, I love Barnes' era of Cannibal, but George brings a completely different, persona to the thing. And also I played shows where Monstrosity was opening for Eulogy. So that's how long I go back with Corpse Grinder. His only problem is he likes the Denver Broncos, and that's a fucking problem. But that's another story. That's another
not a
story.
cool thing.
He might
I
like the
remember that
Ravens
because
too.
I
I don't know.
remember
I can't
when,
remember if he's a Ravens fan too, but because I know he's from Baltimore or Maryland. But no, stop.
Well, I remember when Cannibal Corpse was shooting the Decency video, which we talked about on the show before at Club Venom in St. Petersburg, that I used to run the shows there, and that is what he talked about was the Broncos.
Oh yeah,
It's one memory I do have.
I remember I went to a party at his place in the early days, and that's all that was all over the fucking walls with Broncos, and that was fucking orange made me sick. Sorry, it is what it is. Gotta love our own teams, man.
Yep. But Halloween's coming up. Man, I remember they used to have the cereal boxes with the masks on them when you were a kid. You used to cut them out
and wear them.
Yeah. I think I was always Dracula when I was a kid, man, for the first like 10 years of my life. I think that was the easy thing. Throw some fangs on the kid and,
It was
pretty
always
much
the
does it.
different Kmart costumes that you would buy that you
those
just
awful
put on.
plastic masks with that
Yeah.
fucking
Well, because if you
string.
remember, in school in Jersey, you know, they would have the day where you wore your costume all day and they paraded you around the school and you got candy and it was a whole thing. I don't know if they still do that crap, but you know, people took Halloween as a real thing. You know what I mean? Back in the early days, it was a real thing until Halloween
here-
came out and then people got scared about trick or treating because Michael Myers was going to get you. But
It's starting to become a thing here now in Lithuania, and we actually, as you know, we have like a whole big Halloween thing we do in our neighborhood, and we get like hundreds of kids here. So it's you know, I mean, obviously it's not a tradition here, but it's becoming a thing. You see it in the stores now. You're starting to see the masks and the pumpkins and all this stuff. So I'm a big Halloween fan. And speaking of, we're gonna have Count Gore Duvall, the Hall of Fame horror host, coming on here again for his third appearance.
another
You know,
legend.
Yeah, Count's a friend of the show. Watched him growing up, me and Ed. We've had him on the show. I've become friends with the guy outside of the show, and he'll be here for his third appearance.
Bozo the fucking
Yeah,
clown.
Bozo the Clown. He was Bozo the Clown. Whoever knows that character, he was the second Bozo, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so he'll be joining us again. We always try to bring him back in October. I talked to him this week. He'll be back. Next week we have Mangus coming on, the guitarist, vocalist of Aberration out of Norway, which is, I think, in the last like 6 months we had no Norwegian bands on, and now we've had Heinlein on episode 90, Ninth on 92, Deathhammer, which is gets crazy downloads, that episode. Awesome band. We had Sergeant Solston on episode 104, and we'll have Mangus on from Aberration on next week. He was also in Condor, Hecatomb. So we'll talk to him. And then we have, eventually this month, we have Bloody F Mess, who was a friend and a band member of Gigi Allen. Bloody was on episode 51. And I have to say, I was thinking about this before we came on tonight. You know, we've heard some fucked up stories on this show. We've heard some great stories on this show. And I was thinking of like, what are some of the most disturbing stories we ever heard? And it has to be the Bloody F Mess episode. You know, obviously the Gigi Allen stories were one thing, but for me, Ed, it was the Gacy story.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, where his buddy went, I don't know how to, you have to listen to the episode, but his buddy would go visit
brutal.
Gacy in prison and basically wound up sexual favors, crazy serial killer shit. But that was probably the most fucked up episode.
I agree. It's you know, it's funny you said that because I was thinking of that last night because my wife was all enthralled in watching. I don't know if you've seen this. I think it's on Netflix.
My
Called
wife's
Monster.
watching it, the Ed Gein.
Oh my god!
Yeah, my wife is like
that
obsessed with
dude,
it
fucking
right now.
Charlie Hunnam, that was fucking Sons of Anarchy. That is the most creepiest fucking dude I've ever seen. And what's weird is when I look at him with that haircut, he looked like John Cena. Like his face looked like John Cena from the wrestler. But the way he talks and he, dude, if you haven't seen it, we watched the first 2 episodes, and I got to tell you, I'm getting goosebumps. I'm fucking creeped the fuck out.
Dude, my wife, who doesn't get disturbed by shit, like, you know, like she is like, after she watches this episode, she's like, I don't even know what to think. I'm like,
yeah, I after the first one, I'm like, I don't know if, but you can't stop. It's like because you know they watch The Nun and The Conjuring, and I just have no desire for none of that because to me it's just good. But this, you know, I know it's like the Jeffrey Dahmer one was fucking not the monster version, but the actual movie they did on Jeffrey Dahmer. I think it was on Netflix.
Yeah, it was. It was fucked up too.
That was absolutely, but it was done so fucking like they didn't hold back on the gore and the disgustingness. You know what I mean? They showed you like brutal shit, but this is a different level of whoever. I mean, I hope they sleep at night because that was, my wife was like, I'm going to bed on this shit and I don't know if I like it. And I'm like, well,
I'm
you wanted to watch
my wife,
it.
nothing bothers her, man. But for some reason, every time I talk to her after an episode, she's like, and there's 8 episodes in total, I believe.
Well, what's funny is when we were watching the trailer, I don't know if you saw the trailer first, but he's sitting in there sweeping his house with a fucking dress on with a fucking skin mask.
With his mom's face on him or some shit.
And it was somebody else's face. And then the cop comes to the door and he's like, I was just like, what the fuck? Because Ed Gein was obviously, you know, out there as far as, you know, you
well, that's
go.
where, you know, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, back in the day, you'd hear
Yep.
it's inspired by a true story. And
Yep.
as a kid, you're like, what the fuck? And then you realize that Geen is the
Yep.
story that it's taken after and stuff, or
Yep.
parts of it, you know. And
Yep.
yeah, so I mean, that's, yeah, she gets disturbed by that too. So I definitely heard that show is definitely the thing right now on Netflix.
Weird.
Yeah, so like, and I was thinking of the Bloody F Mess episode. I was like, that's a pretty fucked up episode. The Mike
Yes.
Deanna episode, which we had Vincent
Another
Crowley
one.
on the last week we were talking about, which the Vincent Crowley episode, man, that is getting a shitload of downloads also. And it's a great episode. There's a lot of Florida metal history, a lot of just fucking killer topics on it, in my opinion. But we had Mike Deanna on, and anybody doesn't know, Mike Deanna did artwork back in the day for a comic called Boiled Angel, and was linked to the Gainesville killings back in the day, and which he had nothing to do with, but went to jail for the comics, the Boiled Angel comics.
Complete bullshit.
And he was they linked him to, it was the Bundy killings.
Yep.
And they tried to blame him. So if you haven't checked out that episode, the Mike Deanna episode is, to me, as we were talking with Vincent Crowley last week about, is a pretty fascinating episode, man, because it goes to show you how fucked up things can be, that this guy got arrested for artwork. So, you know, I don't know, killer. Like I said, Bloody F Mess will come back on, man. You'll hear some more Gigi Allen stuff. I mean, he was, you know, Gigi stayed with him and everything. And, you know, I mean, no matter what, you know, as one thing about the show, definitely go back and listen, which we'll mention in a few minutes again, but you can go with Chris Reifert, whether it's Anal Vomit or Raven or Pat from Hell Witch. There's a bunch of old school episodes you can go back, and it's a lot of info. But Bloody will be joining us. Count Gordeval will be joining us this month, and next week is Mangus from Aberration. And
No
Ed,
signs of slowing down on this bitch.
Yeah, it'll be Mangus will be 110, and then, you know, so
keep going.
A lot of shit going on behind the scenes here. And,
train kept rolling all night long.
Yeah, and tonight we have Black Venom of Flame coming on, which will be killer. And we'll talk to him here in about 10 minutes. Ed, do you think we do the usual? We do the
museum.
Everybody, you know, who's been listening, we know that you have to hear this every week until the event probably, but we're going to run.
Well, you're going to hear it now because we were announced as we're part of the fucking thing. So you're going to hear it. Generic Christ was announced. So
our band will be,
I guess I'm doing a twofer, because Monstrosity was also announced this year. So
I'll be there for it, which was totally not planned. I actually have to travel there in February, and it happened to be the same week of the Tampa Bay Museum of Metal, which, as you'll hear in the promo, has a bunch of old stuff. Ed was there last year, old Deicide banners and Executioner, and you know, you name it, old Florida metal
memorabilia. A lot of cool peeps walking around too.
Yeah, a lot of the old people.
If you want to see
around,
some of your heroes, they say don't meet them, but if you want to see them, there were definitely a bunch of those dudes walking around, hanging out, and having a good time.
Yeah, so we'll be there. Me and Ed
honestly,
and a couple other guys.
You know, when you go there, don't just get a fucking beer, because I don't know if anybody realizes, but that place makes, and I'm not, you know me, I fucking am not a drinker. No. But I had a couple of samples. They had little sample things you could try. And I was actually surprised, because I'm not a fan of beer. Like, we would go next door and have Shock Top or whatever. I can handle that. And, you know, I'm a pussy, like the lime beers and the fruity shit, because I don't like the taste of
Guinness. Ed's drinking Zimas.
Yeah, I ain't drinking no fucking wine coolers either. Fuck off with that. But the point is, I'm just not so I don't like to drink, because I'm not a fan of the taste. But their beers were actually, like, I could drink their beers, which is a problem because I don't want to become a drinker, but and apparently they just released 11 new flavors yesterday or something, or today, I guess. I saw Joe Tolley put something up. So yeah, definitely support the place, because they're the ones helping get the Tampa Museum of Metal, you know, the Metal Museum going. So we have a place to go look at the stuff. So don't just think of it as, oh, I can go in there, you know, go in there and support the business too, because they're obviously support what we're doing. So it's worth it.
Yeah, and we will have some shirts there too for the Tampa Morgue. We're going to figure that out. I actually have to dig through the merch bins and see what we have left, because I don't have shit left. I think I might have two. I have somebody who I promised I'm going to try to find one for, one of our listeners, Jesse. I'm going to try to find him a shirt, but we're going to get some more made, because we like to give them to the bands that come on too. So, you know, some of the guys that come on here, we like to get them the shirts and stuff. And yeah, so we'll talk about that. We'll let's run the promo, Ed, and then we'll come back and we'll do releases. and we'll do the musicians who passed away. Then we'll do shows, and then we're going to get to Simo, aka Black Venom of Flame from Finland. And busy night here on the Tampa Morgue, like usual.
Let's do it.
Let's get to Death Metal Dave.
What's up, Tampa Morgue listeners? This is Death Metal Dave from the Tampa Bay Museum of Metal. And I'd like to ask you to join us on February the 7th at Magnanimous Brewery, Seminole Heights, where we're going to have a killer display of Florida metal history. Backdrops, guitars, drums, clothing, you name it, we're going to have it. And it's pretty freaking cool, man. Come out and support the metal and drink our Tampa Bay Museum of Metal beer. And always listen to the Tampa Morgue with Tony and Ed. Bitches. Death Metal Dave. In your face.
That was Dave Allison, a.k.a. Death Metal Dave from the Tampa Bay Museum of Metal. As I've been telling you like a broken record for the last few weeks, if you want more information about the Tampa Bay Museum of Metal, you can visit www.tampabaymuseumofmetal.com. There you will find a shitload of Florida and Tampa Bay metal history that dates back to 1982 and takes you to the current day. While I'm doing this, I'm also going to plug the Tampa Morgue. If you're a new listener, me and Ed appreciate it. If you haven't heard the show before, you can go back and hear all of our old episodes. Tonight is episode 109. You can hear interviews with guests like Sergeant Salston from Deathhammer, Infernal and Odin from Disaster, Daniel Avenger from Nocturnal and Angel of Damnation and Black Priest of Satan. We had the guys from Morbid Sane on here. We had Dave from Mortis Scold on here. Lee Payne from Cloven Hoof. Gene from Angel Corpse Perdition Temple was on the show. Henry from God Dethroned. We had the guys from Witch Trap on. Tony Dolan from Venom Inc. and Venom. John Walker from Cancer. We had Ed Miller of Negative Plane on the show. We also had Jeff Manis of Venom and Venom Inc. on the show. Which is a deep dive into the Venom history. Eric from Goat Seaman out of Peru. King Fowley from Deceased. Ritual Butcher of Arc Goat. We had Terry Butler on the show of Obituary, Death, Massacre, Denial Fiend. We had the guys from Luciferian Rights out of Mexico on the show. We had Nige Rocket on from Onslaught. We had Paul Speckman on from Master. Harry Quokinen from Hooded Menace and Hail Conjurer. We had Morgul on out of Finland. We had Dawn of the Dead from Nunslaughter, Alessio from Violenter and Hobbs Angel of Death. We had Adam from Cardiac Arrest on the show. We had Lord Sabathan from Slaughter Messiah, Enthroned, and Morbid Death on the show. We had Revik from Mordant Red. Bobby Gustafson from Overkill was on the show. Snowy Shaw from King Diamond, Merciful Fate. We had Glenn Destructor on from Destructor. We had Udo on from Accept. We had Carl Kennedy on from The Rods. Kyle Thomas from X-Hoarder, Trouble, and Floodgate. We had Rob on from Destroyer 666 and Lucifericon, Martin Missy from Protector, Luisma from Hemorrhage. We've had a shitload of episodes. Feel free to go check out the old episodes. You can find them all wherever you listen to podcasts, wherever you stream. Spotify, Apple Podcasts. You can always contact us at thetampamorgue@gmail.com. You can always check for updates on the show on the Instagram page. We also update Facebook, but I would definitely recommend going to the Instagram page. So that is, check out anything you want there. It's all free. You can go back and listen to a bunch of old episodes. The list is just growing and growing. And until we make a commercial, I'm going to be repeating this stuff constantly, it seems. But yeah, so we're going to do that. And what we're going to do now is what we usually always do on the show. We're going to mention the musicians who passed away. We try to pronounce every name right. We apologize if we don't, but that's how it works. And we're going to start out with an 18-year-old Brazilian guitarist who went under the name Hell, played in a band called Gornon and Veglum. He died 18 of suicide. Matt McKeag, Canadian bassist, vocalist, passed away at the age of 42, played in a band called Crom and Laid to Rest. Then we have Brian Burtman, a guitarist born in San Diego who passed away at the age of 53, played in the bands Discord, From the Depths, and Riphead. Tu Rendon, a Mexican vocalist who passed away at the age of 58, played in a band called Saintana. Miss Wojciech, a Polish guitarist for the band Nightmare and Nightmares, two separate bands. He was 56 years old. John Rebhel Leisen, a Belgian drummer who passed away at the age of 47, played in the bands Bursting, Cathedral, Devoured, and also did vocals in a band called Neverlight Horizon. Next, Mark Higgins, a UK drummer, passed away at the age of 48, played in Amphitheater, Apathy, Arcane Sun in Fireland. And then Andre Moranda also went under the name Andy Silver. He was an Italian drummer who passed away at the age of 58. He played in a band called Cornicle. Now, before we get to our guest tonight, Black Venom from the band Flame. He played in Urn, Demon's Gate, Adorior. We're going to talk about the upcoming releases or releases that came out this week. We always pull a few. I'll read them first, and then Ed will read you what he has. I'm going to start out with a band called Enragement. It's a death metal band from Helsinki. Extinguish All Existence is the name of this record. It's coming out on Transcending Obscurity Records out of India. Enragement formed in 2006. First release was a full length in 2014 titled Omni-Malevolence of Man. This will be the band's fourth full length and a follow-up to the 2022 album titled Atrocities. Extinguished All Existence came out October 3rd on Transcending Obscurity Records. Next, still in Finland, Hooded Menace. Lacrimos, Monuments of Obscuration, coming out on Season of Mist. Hooded Menace formed in 2007. First offering was the Eyeless Horde demo in 2007. Hooded Menace in total has 7 splits, 1 demo, 1 comp, and this will be the band's 7th full length. It has 7 tracks, including a Duran Duran cover of Save a Prayer. And anybody who hasn't heard Harry Quokkanen, which I mentioned a few minutes ago from Hooded Menace, was on the show, episode 40. This will come out on Season of Mist, October 3rd. Frosted Undergrowth, a German black metal band, is releasing an album called Unchained on Falter Records out of Germany. Frosted Undergrowth formed in 2015. First release was an EP in 2016 titled Under Satan's Sun. The band has released 2 EPs, and this will be Frosted Undergrowth's 3rd full length. This one has 7 tracks, and Unchained will come out on October 3rd on Falter Records. Mortuary Sickness, an Australian death metal band, they're putting out a live album called Terminal Sickness. It's an independent release. Mortuary Sickness formed in 2019. These tracks are taken from a 2025 show at the Bar One Club in Australia. The band put out a full length in 2024 titled What Lies Beyond. If you're into live releases, then this comes out October 6th. Serpent God, Finnish death doom metal band. The name of this one is Denial. It's coming out on Inverse Records out of Finland. The band formed in 2023, and this will be the band's debut album. They did put out 4 singles in 2025. The debut will have 9 tracks, and it will be out on October 10th on Inverse Records. Save, Portuguese death metal band, merged into Abstract Perdition is the name of the release. It's coming out on Transcending Obscurity Records out of India. Save, formed in 2004, put out a demo in 2005 titled Domestication of Human Race. The band has also put out an EP in 2008. This will be Under Save's 3rd full length. Will be out October 10th. Ways to the Grave, a band from New Jersey, a progressive death metal band, is releasing Echoes of Extinction. It's going to be a self-release. First release was an EP in 2024 titled Cult of Reapers. This will be the band's debut full length. It'll have 9 tracks and be available October 10th. Mr. Webb, what do you have for releases?
Yeah, for releases, I have a few, which is unusual, but looks like a couple bands put some stuff out. A band I used to listen to in the early days, man. They used to be really good. I used to I love the first 2 records, but Amorphous, they put out a record called Borderland. I listened to a couple songs the other day, and it's different from the early days, but most bands obviously change, but it's still pretty fucking killer, man. If you like Amorphous and you like that kind of sound, kind of Paradise Lost, I like them too. They have their points where they're fucking heavy, and then they know when to just groove, and it's a good record, man. I'm going to delve into it a little more. But there was another band. They actually played here apparently the other day with a band called Lorna Shore. Not a fan of those guys. I mean, I can appreciate what they do. Just,
I don't know if I've ever heard of them, actually.
Yeah, they're kind of like the Suicide Silence and the, style where just all over the road, just, kind of maybe Black Dahlia murderish kind of, but they're pretty big. The singer just, it's just weird because when they sings, you're just like, dude, can you really do that live? Now, I haven't seen him live, but I've seen videos and it looks like he can do some of it. So, not slagging anybody, just when you do those kind of, when you can go super guttural and then scream like at the top of your lungs, I'm just like, man, what kind of hellish fucking beast is that doing that, man? Because it's just different, But this band opened up. I've been seeing them a lot. You might have seen them recently. They always put these little shorts up. But it's a band called Peeling Flesh. So the singer's a killer guy, man. I've seen him. He puts up stuff. He's a black guy, which the way he sings, I was just like, when I showed Bryce, he's like, that fucking dude's doing those vocals. I'm like, yeah, he's not rapping. He's fucking actually, but it's kind of like human artifacts that I don't want to call it pig squeals because, but that real low, super can't understand guttural, but the music is abs. Because I told Bryce, I'm like, listen to the riffs. They're just, it's so heavy. I liked it. The riffs are fucking killer, but it's called PF Radio 2. And I listened to the whole record. And again, I happened to see the other day that they were playing at the Youngling Center, which is the old USF. That's where Lorna Shore was playing. And I was like, how did I not hear about this show? Like, how is it that I don't fucking hear about none of these shows that are coming through? I mean, that's not a small show. If you're playing the Youngling Center, like we heard Meshuggah was coming and we knew when Amon Amarth was coming because those are like, but this is kind of in our wheelhouse. And I had no idea until Joe Tolley put up, I'm doing this show tonight. And it was Lorna Shore and these other bands. And at the bottom, I saw the Peeling Flesh. And I was like, holy shit. I had no idea that, I don't know what the tickets cost, but.
Was the physical flyers gone now, right? I mean, remember
well, yeah, but even online, I mean, there was
yeah.
nowhere online that I saw that show was coming. So yeah,
if you remember, man, you would leave a gig, like even in Tampa and St. Pete, like that time period, say like 10 years ago, maybe even longer now, like probably, to be honest, like 15 years ago, even. You would leave the State Theater, right? And people would just be handing you flyers on the way out the door, or the brass mug, or the masquerade, or
absolutely. How many times you went and made a lot of, believe it or not,
still always make flyers.
A lot of the Pete Olin shows we got was because of the flyers and all the stuff that we did to promote the shows. That's why we got a lot of shows we played, because we promoted.
Even the last show we did, I'm really big on the physical flyer. Like I agree. I know it's not as effective as it used to be, but to me,
but it's still killer, man, and it does what it's supposed to do. But yeah, the last one I have is a band that I started hearing on Liquid Metal, and they gained some traction. I see they're playing some pretty big tours, but a band called Orbit Culture. I don't know if you've heard of them, but
I have not heard them either.
I've seen them gaining steam, and I saw that couple videos they put out for this record. So, and I listened to it and I was like, oh, it's actually pretty, I mean, if it's different, but it's Death Above Life is the name of the record. And it was pretty cool. I dug it. And I will tell you, and I've been telling you this for a couple days, the new Tipping Point from Megadeth, the new tune, I fucking dig the shit out of it, man.
Yeah, you were telling me yesterday.
I'm an old Megadeth fan, and I played it for Bryce, and I'm like, because I always talk about, why is it that bands can't write songs anymore? Like real fucking structured tunes. Like Testament put out a new tune a couple weeks ago, and I was like, that's how you write a fucking record. They put out a new
album this week, Testament, or am I wrong?
I think it comes out 2 weeks, if I'm not mistaken, because they're doing the tour with Terry in Obituary right now. So Terry just literally finished up, and I saw he's like ended that, hit the reset switch. Now I'm out with fucking Testament. I'm like, holy shit, dude.
Yeah, I started seeing flyers sold out.
Yeah, it's good, man. That's good, because Testament with Obituary is that's a great. I mean, I would see that in a second. There would be no hesitation in me seeing that show. But yeah, the video popped. I forgot. I saw last week they put a teaser up for the song, and I was like, but they only played this really slow, heavy riff, and people were like, what kind of crap is that? But then I saw, I refreshed my YouTube, and it had just hit, like literally like 10 minutes. And I was like, holy shit, let me check this out. And as soon as it took off, I was like, that's fucking Megadeth. And then it went blistering, and I was like, that's fucking Megadeth. And the beginning lead, I was like, damn, that Timu did a shred. And I look, and it's fucking Dave. In the video, he's the one playing. I was like, holy fuck. I mean, listen, man, if they're retiring, I didn't realize he's 65 years old this year. Jesus. 65, Dave Mustaine. And I'm like, this motherfucker is still writing shit that Metallica wishes they could fucking write. I'm sorry. But if you want to compare the two, don't. Because you can talk whatever you want about Megadeth. They've never put out shit like, and Dave's never tried to sing like fucking James. I mean, I'm sorry. I just can't.
I think Risk was the worst product that they put out.
And Euthanasia. I think those
Euthanasia.
two were
I wasn't a fan. Like we were talking last night. I told you like I was
Countdown. I thought that was
I
where
didn't like Countdown. I didn't like. I was
there were
pretty
still
much
good songs
like
on it though.
Killing in Peace. I like the first two, and Rust in Peace. I saw that tour. You know, that was the Clash of the Titans tour.
Yes,
I saw Rust in Peace, but I have to say, Killing Is My Business and Peace Sells.
Agreed.
To this day, are still.
But when they came back a
I
couple years ago with Dystopia and then Endgame, he started to bring back the old school Megadeth. And this song, literally, like when he does this breakdown riff at the end and he does these vocals, and I was like, fuck, man, it figures you're going to go out with a bang. You know what I mean? That's how you do it, right? Because he said, I got nothing more to prove. I've done it all. I've been everywhere. And I want to live out my life on my terms because I get to go out on top like Slayer did. You know, I mean, now they're playing again, but like they're not going to be the ones that dude has a heart attack on stage, I guess. He wants to go live his life. And, but yeah,
65.
Great fucking, I mean, honestly, like, I know we appeal to a more extreme fucking crowd of people, but if it weren't for Megadeth, you wouldn't have the extreme that you have because Dave Mustaine, it has been said over and over and over again. Even Kerry King said when he played with him, he's like, dude, I'm watching this guy and he's looking at the crowd and he's fucking playing this shit on his guitar without even looking at his hands. And it's not many people can play like that.
Well, yeah, I mean, you know, I'm into the extreme, obviously, but I mean, like I said, Killing Is My Business and Peace Sells when I'm 13 and 14 years old. To me, those are still like killer records.
They still hold weight today. The only thing I'm not a real fan of is I wish Dave Ellefson would have been on this record. Nothing against James Lomenzo, but when you listen to the bass on the record, that's not a fucking, to me, Dave Ellefson has a Megadeth sound for bass. I'm sorry. It's just the way it is. It's not bad. It's just, if you're a fan of Megadeth and you're a bass player, which I am, I could hear the difference of Megadeth, you know what I mean, with the records that he's not on. So yeah, but yeah, definitely killer song. And yep, that's all I got.
Have some shows, man, and then we could get Simo on and talk some Flame from Finland. So yeah, I'm gonna just I don't know if you have any. I just have a few. I'm gonna start out with what did I see this morning? Headbangers Oktoberfest, the Brass Mug, October 10th. Doors at 7, shows at 8 p.m. Free food at the show. The bands that are playing are Frequency, Swamp Tooth, Cadaver Dolls, Mobus Loop, and Awkward Stairs. And that'll be October 10th at the Brass Mug. Let's see, October 25th, Halloween Metal Bash at the Brass Mug again. There's a costume contest. First prize gets $100. Second prize gets $50. Blood of Angels is playing. The Dude is playing. Voidrium is playing. And Vital Pain is playing. $11 in advance. $15 day of show. Doors at 8 p.m. And then, so we won't mention them. Obviously, Malevolent Creation is playing tonight. So this, by the time you people will hear this, that'll be done. They're playing with Vader, which the first three shows got canceled, right? Because Vader couldn't get into the country, but they will open up at the Orpheum tonight with Vader, Cataclysm, and Skeletal Remains, the Carnival of Death tour. And then I'm just going to mention it again. We mentioned it last week. The Florida Swamp tour, Intoxicated, Castrator, Cold Steel, and Obituary, December 5th, 6th, 7th, 12th, 13th, and 14th through Florida. Again, I don't have all the venues listed, but you can look it up if you want. We'll announce it when it gets closer. And Ed, that's all I have for shows, unless you have anything, because I didn't pull too many, because we'll be back in a couple days. So
nope, you saw what I saw.
Yeah, so I would say let's
time for some Flame.
Yeah. So we're gonna play some Flame here before we get Simo, aka Black Venom, on from Flame out of Finland. We're gonna play Deification from the new record, which we're gonna hear all about tonight. So this is actually, which we'll talk to him about. This is a demo for the new record. This won't be the final actual recording for the new record, but this is Deification, the Serpent's Promise. And we'll be back on the Tampa Morgue with Simo, aka Black Venom of Flame, after this track.
myself. Not still on my path, but to breathe death of knowledge and power. Burning yesterdays at the ruins of past life. Recreation of my kingdom, lost in mundane boundaries. Self-deification, serpent ways to liberation, occult ways to gathered will be fortune dragon fire, burning yesterdays at the roots of last life. Recreation of my kingdom, from the shadows of Lucifer's throne. Guided by Nama, the way beyond. Dark are the ways to self-deification. Still, my lyrics got me death. Dark are the shells, this horror's propel. Illumination by chaos and death. Deification, the serpent's promise. Deification, the serpent's promise. God closes ways of madness. Deification, the serpent's promise. The seed this dualistic of life and death. Of life and death.
And that was Flame with Deification, the Serpent's Promise. And we are joined by Simo, aka Black Venom from the band Flame. How are you doing, man?
I'm very fine. Thank you very much for having me in here. And, how are you guys?
Doing good, man.
Yes.
How about you, Ed?
Good.
Ed's having some technical
Early.
difficulties over there.
Yeah.
Fucking early in the morning here, man.
Oh, okay.
7:30 in the morning.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's
but
all
it works
good.
out 'cause Ed would rather do the interviews early, right, Ed?
Yeah, I'm an early bird. I'm usually at the gym at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning, so I'm good with it. It's just my
Okay.
$100 in-ears just broke, so I'm not happy about that. In the case,
Okay.
they were in the case and they broke, so when I figure how that happened, I'll be happy.
All right.
So first of all, man, I want to, I was telling Ed before you came on the show tonight, man, which is awesome, and we hear this sometimes, and it really amazes us that you actually check out the Tampa Morgue. You actually have
Oh
listened to
yeah.
the show before you've come on here.
Yes. I checked a couple of stuff. Like Vince from x-Urn, of course. Like Jarno from Urn. He sent us a link, and I did that fucking whole Mantas episode, and that was fucking pure gold.
That's
So, like,
awesome, dude. I always tell people, man, I'm like, me and Ed always say, we're like, listen, if you're a Venom fan, uh, everything's there, right?
yes, exactly. That was like way dream for a Venom fan, for my
Yeah.
opinion. Yeah.
Yeah, man. No, it's well, we appreciate you listening, and it's always cool to hear that because we've been doing this for our third year now, so
Yeah.
and we've been doing it weekly somehow. So it's been been some work, man. So we're always glad to hear that some of the bands that come on have actually heard the show before they come on. So thanks for
Total
that.
support
First,
for me.
that's awesome, man. And yeah, no, before we start, really getting into it, man, like because obviously you know how we do the show here. How's the weather by you? You starting to get the winter now? Because like I think we were like 1 Celsius this morning, and I think we're at like 9 today. Is in Finland? Are
Yeah,
you starting to get
actually,
that?
yeah, there's like autumn vibes in here. Like it's not that really that cold. Morning was cold, but there's like 10 degrees plus, but windy today. So it's kind of you see autumn is coming pretty much.
Definitely. Ed, what do you got over there in Tampa? You got it's probably got to be like 30
70
Celsius.
It's actually, I was just looking, it's as of right now, it's 75 degrees this morning, but that will last
Nice.
about 10 minutes and we'll be up to 107 by noon.
Yeah, so I mean, I know Finland. You guys had. How was your winter last year? Black Venom or Simo. How was your like? Did you guys? It wasn't like in Lithuania. It wasn't that cold like it usually is last winter here.
Uh, yeah, I think it was pretty cold at some point, but not that bad, if I remember correct. But I think like it wasn't that snowy winter last year. So, but yeah, there's for sure those days while fucking freezing cold. So I'm one of those old school guys who have fireplaces, so I put more fire in them, you know, going on in the
Yeah, I was going
house.
to ask you that. Are you a fan of the winter?
Not that much really. I like the landscape and everything, but I must say I'm pretty much like the summer person more.
Sense. And well, now and with Flame, before we get to your history and stuff, with the last show you guys did, was that Steel Fest this year?
Yeah, yeah, we did. That was the last show we did, and we pretty much like concentrate on the new album stuff. Because they were like hassling. We try to get like a better deal with the. But anyway, like we got to work out the deal with the. Well, basically, Chris sent me a message like, "Hey, I want to help you guys. I have that money, and I want to put my own label on." And they shared the deal with our like our current label, Primitive Reaction. So that's it basically. So like.
Was there any highlights for you at Steel Fest this year? Because I know Asheron played, Sarcophago. For you, what was one of the highlights?
Asheron, definitely, yeah, it was killer show, and actually, I actually met Vince, shaking hand a little bit. They have a fucking horrible travel. I heard that, so I left them alone. But I say, yeah, I'm your fanboy, and we actually did in Asheron cover back in the days. I think it was 2009. We did live from Rites of the Black Mass song Toward Lord. So I'm the fanboy for sure.
You know, for that, and before we get to your history, one more question is for anybody who hasn't been to Steel Fest, how would you explain it to the people who have never attended it?
Well, I must say it's fucking pure metal, as metal you can get. It's all there, and it's very fucking totally well organized. Probably best in the world, I've heard. So it's fucking great. You probably know Beherit is gonna be in this year.
I saw that. Yeah, actually,
Yeah.
Yarno told me that yesterday.
So there's gonna be a great atmosphere for sure.
Yeah, I saw Destroyer 666 is not gonna play it, and then Beherit's gonna play it now, so I did
Oh
see
yeah,
that.
definitely good lineup, and there's like good stuff like Tormentor and Inquisition is always good.
I
And
saw that.
yeah, and of course, if you're a fan of those Finnish bands, they're always there. So it's very good fest, I must say.
And so for you, obviously you're born in Finland. I know you're born in '81 also, but what city were you born in?
I was technically I was like born in like in Kuopio hospital, but we live in that time when I was a baby. We live in a town called Siilinjärvi, and it's like maybe 20-25 kilometers from Kuopio. We lived there in just a couple of years, and then we moved to Kuopio, or my parents moved to Kuopio and so on. So I'm basically from Kuopio.
And pre-music, like through the eyes of like say a 6 or 7 or 8-year-old, like what are some of the memories you have of growing up in Finland?
Well, Finland is a nice place in that time, like it's just, I had pretty, like normal, like childhood with no surprises basically. But, my parents divorced, like when I was like 5. So that caused me a little bit something, like issues, but not too much.
And do you remember the actual like first piece of music that caught your attention as a kid, whether it be like, a child song or something on the TV or
Well, maybe when I was, like before I went to school, like my parents take me to the daycare place because of course they're working. So they were that was kind of normal household, but like they had the like the radio on almost all day. So it hit that time, maybe year 86, maybe fucking Michael Jackson Thriller or Europe's Final Countdown or stuff like that, Madonna. So basically 80s pop music.
I don't know, you said your parents separated. Did you guys grow up in a religious house at all? Was either of the parents into like religion or anything like that?
Not really, but that's a little bit my because my dad's parents, my grandparents, dad's side, they were true Christians. They didn't have any TV or anything. They are those sect called Lestadians, you know. So, but they weren't that kind of. Luckily, they were that kind of fundamentalist. Like they had pretty, like they lived their, their own kids. Live their own lives pretty much. You know, not a fucking set of stupid rules or anything. But that pretty much caused some issues sometimes, but not too much. But for me, basically, when my I haven't been baptized or anything, so that was quite odd, and I think that could be a little bit, like a background story of those weird issues we had with them sometimes, because pagans
They
and what
wanted
the
you
fuck.
baptized.
Yeah, so that kind of thing. But pretty much normal, and those grandparents still took care of me when I was a kid and stuff like that, so it was okay, like it's no problem, and I have respect to them, of course.
And do you remember the first album you ever owned, whether you purchased or someone gave it to you? Like the first, I don't know if it was a cassette, or a record or a CD, but do you remember the first one that you actually had that you kind of cherished, so to say?
Yeah, I remember, the album I really wanted from my parents, and they took me to record shop, was like Metallica's Ride the Lightning, and that was Ride the Lightning CD, because it was CD times back then. But like early 90s. So, but I think before that I got 2 tapes, because I had stepmother too, and she got like quite cool brother, like who like rock music, and his favorite band was AC/DC, for example. So he gave me like 2 tapes of AC/DC, like Back in Black and Razor's Edge. So those were the first ones.
In the 90s, right? I don't know, like, the radio stations in Finland, it was basically playing, like, a lot of European dance music, like, in mainstream music, right? But
Yes.
there's a guy we've talked about on this show several times, Klaus Fleming. Were you familiar with him, and did you listen to, like, the Radio Mafia in the 90s
Yeah.
and
Oh
stuff?
yeah. Yeah, he was a kind of game changer in the radio business. Yeah. Cool that you bring that up because he basically started. He had that so-called metal union, Metalliliitto. You know. So yes, we actually like managed to that show was basically when we got to got to know that show. That show basically stopped and changed a little bit. But we still have the opportunity to like listen those and there was like Amorphis it played when there was still death metal and like and that kind of stuff so yes, definitely he
Is
was a
that when you
king
start
for
is that when you start, like, getting into, like, you start learning about the Sentenced and the Children of Bodom or whatever, from your like, Amorphis and stuff like that? Is that when you're starting to learn about the bands around you?
oh yeah, definitely. And of course we had like I had many like friend groups like they were totally into metal and we have the like that was the time we always have like, hey, what tapes do you have, like recorded tapes, so we share those and like get to know more and more bands and yeah.
And was there, like, I've talked about this, I don't know, we've talked about it with a few guests actually from Finland, and so did you guys kind of, like, feel a rivalry with the Norway scene at a young age, because there was so much stuff coming out of there at the time, and there was kinda like this thing, this unspoken
Yeah,
thing back.
well, I think that basically started when I basically joined Urn because well, I was of course we were that Norwegian thing when it started to arrive, like in the mid-90s. That was huge. I mean, fucking everybody was suddenly, like, yeah, fucking Mayhem and Gorgoroth and everything. And of course, yeah, Enslaved and whatever, Emperor. And of course, I went into, like a little bit, but I was also in the death metal, and that were the times when here in Finland, like, started being that fucking as like, oh, why you listen to that death metal stuff? Because this black metal stuff is so much better, and blah blah shit like that. But yeah, that Norway thing. Uh, do you own the actual first Impale Nazarene album?
Yes.
Yeah. So there is a statement for Norwegians. They say like that there in the fucking insert. It say like "Kuolema Norjan kusi päälle," which means like you piss off your fucking Norwegian or stuff like that. But they have a real like I think they have issues with work weakness. If I'm like correct, at least but at some smaller bands, and that started that kind of fucking anti-Norway thing, because of that. And there was, I think, Baratroom was also involved in that shit. They got some fucking stupid death threats, but they probably some, like because I think I uh talk sometimes with Sova, from Baratroom singer about this. He said he had, like good relationship with Euronymous and those guys, like so there has to be something really odd going. There's probably some copycat bands or something like that. So like, yeah, we are the Norwegians and start sending those fucking letters and everything. I think Impel Nazarene got dead rats from Norway. But anyway, my point was, basically, like Jaro was, hey, when we started doing this, we are like anti-Norway, and you should forget your Norwegian things too. So I was like, okay, because I was a youngster then. No, I was just fucking 17 when I joined Urn.
Yeah, if
So yeah,
I remember, and I think we've talked about it on this show, Ed, if you remember, there was, like, that whole thing with speak of, like, Euronymous and the anti-Scott Burns thing going on for a while out of Tampa where they didn't like because all the records that were coming out of Tampa, and I can see, but the listeners can't see. I know you have a Morbid Angels shirt on right now.
oh yeah,
Yeah, so you were a fan of some of the Florida death metal bands and stuff growing up?
yeah. I was totally hooked into that shit because before I even knew like kind of existence of black metal, that kind of thing. Actually, like probably most of the band shirts I ever wear was like something like individual talk patterns, shirt by Death, and stuff like that. And of course, when I heard Morbid Angel first time, Altar of Madness, I was like blown away, you know, like what the fuck, you know, this is actually that's kind of a little bit because that was like evil too, you know, like it was, you know, like, and they play like motherfuckers, you know, like, yeah, the Morbid Angel was totally game changer band. And actually that band was one of those bands, even when it was black metal times, all that still we worship with that band, you know, like, or everybody say, yeah, Morbid Angel is still fucking, you know, awesome.
And where were you picking up your records in high school, like as a teenager? Was there a lot of record stores near you? And you know, what was some of the stores you were actually visiting?
There were a couple of cool secondhand record stores in Kuopio town, and and especially, you know, like late 90s, there wasn't yet that vinyl explosion with high prices and stuff like that. So I got really good stuff from them. I got, you know, when I started collecting vinyls, you know, like late 90s, more, uh, I got like King Diamond records pretty cheaply, you know, like those old early ones, you know, like Fatal Portrait, Abigail, MTI, very cheap ones. And of course, you know, like I, I was, you know, like started to, you know, like getting something, you know, like cool, you know, like Aussie stuff and Judas Priest as one, you know, at the same time, I was, you know, like still want to, you know, like get some cool heavy metal, you know, like I've, we were actually never, you know, like even the fucking black metal days, you know, like there's always those Judas Priests and, you know, like Sabbath thing we still worshipped, you know.
And you're also into what, 70s and 80s prog music and stuff?
Yeah, yeah. I'm a big fan of that, you know. I have, you know, like King Crimson stuff and, you know, like especially the Red album and the first one are really, you know, like my favorite records these days, you know, like I'll get more and more into that stuff, but, and, you know, our other guitars too, you know, like, who playing Flame, he's a really prog guy too, you know, like, so yeah, definitely.
And what is the first show you ever attend as a kid?
That's a little bit tricky one because, well, I remember, you know, like, maybe Jarno had mentioned too, we have that band called Tarot, or Tarot, what we say that, heavy metal band. You know, that, you know, singer went into Nightwish and stuff like that later. But they were very good. So I can't be 100% sure. A good saw Tarot in maybe 92 before, but the really big, you know, like we have in here in Finland, there was a big festival, music festival, rock festival called Ruisrock in Turku. My mom got me and my cousin there in 93. So, and that was big thing. And there was like headliner was there in that year, Faith No More. So that, but there was, of course, there were smaller stages too where I saw bands. So, yeah, are you familiar with band Xysma? I basically saw Xysma too in smaller stages, but I didn't have a clue because, well, actually, they changed their style at that time, so they were more like rock band. But I remember they still playing some of their, you know, like death metal stuff, and I didn't, you know, like I was kind of, you know, like just get into, you know, that stuff. So I was a little bit, I don't know what to think about that because they were kind of crossover. And of course, you know, like Tarot was there too. So yeah, but you know, basically it was Fate No More is the band I see, you know, like a big band.
And you're a guy who plays, you're a multi-instrument guy. You play guitar, bass, drums, and obviously you do vocals. Your first instrument was the guitar?
No, that's a funny one because my first instrument was trombone.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, and that's a funny one because, you know, yeah, when I was a kid, you know, like I started, you know, like at the same time, I basically started to, you know, learn to walk and speak when I was a baby. I tried to sing some of the children's songs with, and, you know, like actually my mom still got some tapes because we have that kind of stereo system with the microphone. So my mother put me, you know, like singing and with the microphone on, and, you know, like that those tapes are really hilarious. She still got those, some of those. But anyway, uh, so Sorry, what was the question? I totally forget that one.
What age did you start? Like, what age did you first pick
Yeah,
up?
yeah,
Well,
the
obviously the
instrument. Oh,
trombone.
yeah, the trombone stuff. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I went to music. My parents put me in the music class, and when I was like 9 years old. And if you had to go there, they put you in the singing test, and if you passed that, you got in. And there was actually, it wasn't like a normal class, but there were like more music lessons. But there was a rules too. You have to go into play into orchestra too. So you have to choose your own instrument. And of course, for some reason, everybody wants to play saxophone. I don't know what the hell was that. But well, basically, on teacher said, no, okay, no. So we just choose you the instrument. So I got trombone. I liked it first, but I started to hate it pretty much. Like straight ahead, because that was a time, like we got into metal stuff also, and I started, I want guitar and really badly, and I just wanted my parents, like I just, do that because it has to be done in like a couple of years. And when I went to high school, I wasn't anymore in that music class because I just, like I just say, I just want to play that guitar and being like a metalhead.
When did you get your first guitar?
I think my parents bought it. It was fucking cheap, horrible Stratocaster model. But that way, like with the oldest started. So yeah.
Were you also in a, so I could be wrong about this, but were you in a Metallica cover band at like 10 and 11 years old?
Well, kind of. It wasn't like a real band. We just put kind of that kind of Metallica cover band on because we in that time our classes or classes in our school sometimes organized like discos, but when we were involved in that, we put the half of the music just metal. So there was like battle between dance music and metal music, and then our teacher says, "Hey, you guys should play there." We were first like, "No way, no fucking way!" But we actually did it. But it could be possible that one of those discos we play. Actually, I think we played 2 times, and we actually did it that kind of like we did the song. So everybody chooses one song who can sing because we have group of friends. We all kind of know how to sing or try to sing or something like that. So I think when we did Creeping Death, I sang, and that was fucking horrible.
But that was your first time then perform, or did you perform with the trombone in front of people? Or was that your first time actually performing in front of people?
Yeah.
With the
Yeah, we did. Of course, there was like, especially Christmas times, we have to do those orchestral things. So there was like
Recitals.
parents watching, but it was those orchestra thing was pretty different. But yeah, maybe those metal discos were the first one we really got into stage, or at least some kind of stage.
Now, are you self-taught with the guitar?
Yeah, pretty much self-taught. But I have to mention, like because of that we brought up that tarot band, and they actually Kuopio, we have those youth houses, and we hang around there, and we got to know that I think that was a year, maybe very early 90s, maybe 92, that there's going to be in the summertime like 1 week rock camp, and it was organized by like those youth house people, and one of those guys were the tarot guitarist who was actually teacher though. So me and my cousin went there, like first time, and actually it was surprisingly they were the both tarot brothers, so that kind of that Margo, that Nightwish guy, was also there. So it was kind of, they taught us, like some metal stuff too there. And of course, it was really, like, yeah, funny memories because they kind of tried to, like, hey, some guys there who can able to, like play together, maybe you can form some kind of band, and then they kind of, like videotape it us and stuff like that. But it was cool time for kids. And actually I went there second time too, and that was a little bit different because that was the start of the death metal thing, and there was actually more older guys there, and I get to use one guy who was actually little brother of the Demilich bass player. So, yep.
I know you. So your first real band is Damnation, right? And you saw Barathrum, which we mentioned earlier in '94, was it? And was that a big influence on you really starting to make your own band?
Yeah, that Damnation was basically my kind of first band, and that Barathrum experience was more like shocking or confusing thing more than influence actually back then. But it was totally kind of weird in a way to think about that, because that gig they did with Barathrum was quite obscure. Actually, that Sova singer, he actually played the timpan, or they made the timpan like floor tom, like put the skin lower, and there wasn't any normal setup. They were like it was more like that Necromantia style music. So, and they have like background taped also, but the lineup was there. Jarno was playing guitar, and Flame drummer Mikko played because they have two bass players. Mikko, our drummer, he played the second bass, and other bass play our old bass player, like Kaitsu Infernus, who was with us, like quite a long time. So yeah, so basically there was like my future there, and I was shocked.
And you're what, around I'm thinking around 13, 14 years old around then, and
Yeah.
uh,
We
and you
were
put
actually,
together Damnation.
yeah, because it was after that second rock camp, I met those guys, and I realized, hey, that guy's really, like Demilich, and they have a band that, like Demilich bass player's little brother got the band called Sacrificium, and I think they just released demos, and they were not, like they just do that for a couple of years, maybe. But they were kind of, we look up to them, and I think like that was basically like when we started thinking about, hey, we should put up like some kind of brutal death metal band. But of course our skills were not that good at that time in any level, so it's like, and there was some other problems too, because we had a drummer back then who was we kind of forced him to join us, like, you have to help us, because he wasn't really into metal that much. And like we tried to pick, but he was a good player, probably best of us, but he didn't have any like double pedals, even anything. So we had to do like kind of simple riffing and that kind of stuff.
Where are you guys jamming at first? Like, where's your guys' rehearsal space when you first formed Damnation?
Those youth houses. There were a couple of those youth houses in our town, so we get to like with some small amount of money, we got some small room where we rehearsal. Yeah.
And did you guys do any live shows?
With Damnation?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we did. I think only one, and that was actually very funny. That was a band competition, and
The Battle of the Bands.
Of course, we didn't won anything, but there was actually quite a lot of audience, and of course there were like different types of bands, and of course we were the only that kind of brutal bands. And I remember there was an audience. There were kind of those kind of older metal guys, and they were looking at us like, "What the fuck are those kids playing?" Because I remember our like bassist vocalist, he could like growl quite a like deep voice, but he still got that child voice. So when he speak about this next song is, it's like, that was fucking funny.
Well, you guys did do a demo, right? You guys did the spring of '95. You guys do a demo. You did 50 copies.
Yeah, that was fucking.
And you mentioned Demolich, so it kind of even it has some connection with that too.
Yeah, because, well, I think because of those Sacrificium, that band, I think that Demilich bass player's little brother came to me and like, hey, I think if you want to do a demo tape, like, I probably can organize you something. And I think he did that happen. So of course we paid that room and everything, but I think in that time that Demilich singer Antti Buuman, who actually engineered that, he was actually also working in that youth house thing, and he basically did that almost free. But the truth was, he wasn't even, like any, like he just practicing stuff basically. But the funny thing was, I remember when we went, it actually, that room was the same room the Barat room used those recordings, and we did all the Urn stuff. That was actually the same place. But the funny thing was, when we entered there with our, like gears, he looked, Antti, the Demili singer, looked at us like, are those your equipments? And I say like, yeah, all right. Like, you don't have any like Marshall amps or anything? I was like, what? No. I just got fucking some kind of small 25 amp, really small amp, and really shitty pedal, and like, and he like, okay, I think we got the problem here, and he tried to organize us something, but he didn't get any proper, like fucking amp for us. So we kind of look in all the place, and we find some, like 60-watt bass, and we pretty much nail all the songs through that. So like the production was obviously fucking muddy. There was only 3 songs, and because of Antti wants like, because like, it's not that, like, we want more, maybe you guys want more length, so let's put the intro on. And he did some weird intro for us, I think, stuff like that.
You mentioned 3 songs. Did you guys have a name for the title, and what were the track names? A couple of the track names off of it.
I think there was 3 songs. I think that because I didn't do any lyrics back then, I was just writing some music. Our vocalist bassist did all that stuff. But they basically were so influenced by the bands that time we listened, some like fucking Cannibal Corpse and the D-side or stuff like, because I remember one song title was like Shredded Baptist. So that's like fucking Cannibal and D-side put together.
You put out the demo. What was the reason the band ended?
Yeah, like what I mentioned about our drummer, because he was a little bit like forced guy. So he was like, after that demo, said, I'm done, like I'm not want to do that anymore. So we have a hard time, like finding anything, like, so we kind of give up for that.
So after that, you get together with Pima, right? AKA Nocturnal Black Spirit. You guys form Flame. Did you know him from the Barathrum period too?
Yeah, of course, it was the Urn thing first, because we basically, like all Flame basically formed from ashes of that time Urn, because I joined Urn, and it was basically, like there was Pimea drums and Infernus, also our Flame guy playing bass, and I did this second guitarist, and Jarno too. And actually, like I was kind of a little bit like a fanboy for them for start, and they play like a trio for a couple of gigs at least. I think maybe even 5 gigs. And then Jarno, because I started hanging out Jarno's place, because he got records and, like obscure band, like fucking Murder Trade, Master's Hammer and stuff like that. And he was one day just basically said to me, hey, do you want to join the band? I was like, well, okay. Yep. And I was like less than 18 then. I was 17 only. Actually, there's a show, my first show is in YouTube. I actually just a while ago put that in our page too, because it's pretty nostalgic.
Well, when you formed Flame, it was 98, right? December of 98?
Yeah. The reason was that because Jarno was, we were all living in Kuopio back that time, and Jarno moved to Tampere, and it started causing, like a little bit like, when we started practicing, like it was a little bit boring to play stuff, and then I say, like, hey, should we, if I start writing some riffs, should we doing something? And of course Mikko say like, yeah, sure, let's just do that. And just, it was just for basically for fun, but it's basically immediately start to escalate, like a real deal. And we actually, the first Flame song ever was that Roots of Evil song, and we did that, and I think we did one rehearsals, like just jamming with Mikko, and like basically put that together. And next time Kaitsu came in, and we said like, hey, we have our own song, and probably we're gonna be put up some band too, because I think I think Jarno say, like, hey, maybe it's better if I'm here and I'm kind of stuck because Jarno started a new school there and he's doing tattoos and he was kind of busy and he's like, maybe it's fucking easier for me if I try to get new members. But he said to me, like, if I need it, are you in? I say, yeah, of course I help you. And, like, but that's basically we formed Flame.
Yeah, because I think I was when I was talking to Yarno, he had said he was living with his girlfriend in a neighborhood that you were hanging out in too when you guys first really started becoming friends. I think your mom. He actually said your mom was like helping him transporting him back to for his studies.
Yeah. It was something like that because I mentioned my mom, like, hey, I have this kind of long haired tattooed friend. Do you want to help? And of course, well, he said like my mom said like, of course, like what kind of. So I think my mom organized, like helping Jarno at least get some kind of apartment in the start. But yeah, basically when I met Jarno, I had like a very, very good friend of mine living in apartment, and Jarno actually moved very like next house to where he lived. And we actually saw like, hey, that is that bathroom guy. And actually, he was still, like the end days of bathroom. He actually say, like, yeah, I'm going to the tour with Countess and Sabbath, and that was year '97 when I first met, like Jarno. He was like smoking cigarettes there in the yard, and he was basically saying, hey, how are you? How are you guys? I have heard that you're playing there something because we actually playing that my friend's, like basement just jamming out. We have some shitty drum kit there and we try to play and we did some fucking old bathroom tunes. So Jarno probably, like when he get out, he was listening like, what the fuck? Those some guys playing bathroom there? So that was kind of how did it happen.
You guys form Flame in '98. Who did the logo for you guys? The first logo you guys started using on those demos?
Jarno did. Jarno did the first logo, yeah.
And then how do you meet, Crusher, right? Thomas? Because he joins the band at '99, and then obviously we mentioned Infernus already, who was with Barathrum and Urn.
Yeah. So yeah, basically Infernus was just who we just say, like, yeah, we have a band. Are you in? He said, like, of course he was. So it was kind of natural, but quite straight on, I said to the guys that I think we need second guitarist too, like, because if I want to write some, maybe, like some stuff, it's just solos and stuff like that. But yeah, I think I didn't remember exactly where, but I think it was some kind of youth party we have, and there was a group of new people I haven't seen, and one of the guys was that Thomas Crusher guy, and straight ahead we became friends, like we were actually like fucking the best buddies ever, like the first meeting,
And you mentioned
back then.
Damnation was rehearsing at the youth clubs. Was that the same thing early on for Flame? Were you guys also rehearsing in the same area, same places?
No, because actually, I think that those youth houses has a rules, because we were too old to go in those places, I think, and we have to, like actually there was some problems, like when we starting Flame, because there wasn't that many places around, and we have to change couple of places before we find like one proper place, and actually that was old slaughterhouse, so that was pretty good for a metal band, and the room was good too. And my cousin band, he had a metal band back then too. We shared that same place, and there was actually next room was basically Lantern. Lantern? Yeah, they started practicing there too, but that was before Lantern stuff. But the Lantern, the guitarist Kimmo, I met him there, like, and yeah.
You guys put out, I know, a rehearsal tape in February of 1999, 4 songs, including a cover of The Return of Darkness and Evil from Bathory. Did you guys record that on just a tape recorder? And how long did it take you to get that material together before you guys first put that out?
I think we just, like, of course we try to, like, work out our own songs, but, of course, naturally, we'd play some cover tunes, just for fun, like Sodom and Battery and stuff like that. So it was just, like just a random idea. I just had my boombox back then, and that was actually a pretty good one. Like if you just find the real spot, you can get proper fucking like resultate. So it was like that.
You did that 2005 song demo. You guys did 200 copies of that. So how was the chemistry early on with you and Furnace and Crusher and Black Spirit?
I think, well, it's pretty good because me and like Russell Thomas we were like the same age, so we were the young bastards versus old bastards. We always joking that because like we mainly friends, like they were like 5 or 6 years older than us. But anyway, yeah, I think we were very good at the start, and we got really pretty much the same passion. And actually, when we did that demo, it was naturally the same room, like I said, we that Barat room used, and that we used that engineer, Sami Jamsen, who did basically all Barat room stuff, Urn stuff, everything, because he was a kind of guy, like he was kind of character and a dictator on the room, but he have like he got the like the good attitude, and he know what we want to do, and it's just easy working on that level. But of course that even that demo was still like completely analog recording, so we use like real tape. But I think after that it pretty much changed for the just like computer and Pro Tools and stuff like that.
Like the Flame sound, like when you guys first start writing music, it wasn't a mapped out thing, right? You guys just it was a natural progression to what wound up being.
Yes. Yeah. We kind of the just of course we have that like let's call this like more like following those early day heroes, like first wave black metal and thrash and stuff like that. Naturally, those creators, like those German thrash trio, and all those were our idols and the backbone sound. But in the layer of top of that, like I want to some of my own, or we at least try to do our best for like putting more and more into our own like layers. And actually, some people have mentioned even like just our sound is easy to recognize, even just for Mikko's drumming and my riffing style and my vocals, and they just so that's just quite a good if we in that sense are at least a little bit unique, because today's age is very fucking important, I think. And always I think like you have to be your identity as a band.
And when you guys put out that demo, are you guys sending them to like zines? Because you guys, I know out of Finland, right? You guys had like in the Infernal zine, Hellspawn, Kill Yourself magazine and stuff. Are you getting it out to those pressings?
I think not so much really, but we did like of course we had that where we did our first shows, that metal bar Valhalla, and that was kind of place. There were lots of people like from other towns too. So of course, if somebody mentioned, hey, that guy's is from that, like of course we give like that. So we pretty much like spreading our name, like only with the shows, but there were people, of course, like involved in that kind of stuff too, like with the scenes and everything.
When was the actual first official Flame show?
It was 99 there in Metal Bar Valhalla. I think pretty much year after that, my real first show in Urn.
And at what age do you also start finding like, interest into the I know at first you guys are writing lyrics a little different. It's influenced by the occult, but it's more like the LaVey stuff, right? And some philosophy stuff. When do you first start finding interest in the occult as a kid? Was it from the bands? Like, because, we all get the Venom records and stuff, and all of a sudden you start getting this Slayer.
Of course, it was, like big influence, just the imagery of the bands and the horror films. That's quite natural stuff. But yeah, I think, like maybe, like let's say last 10 years, 15 years, I've been drawn more and more into, like occult and, like Western esoteric traditions and all that kind of stuff. And, and I don't know, I think I'm all being some kind of like truth seeking person, like kind of deeper level. So when the age, when you realize you're not, like that young, and probably, like the Reaper's gonna get you soon. So I think, like that was the point. But there was like lots of kind of weird synchronistic things happen. It's kind of weird to explain, but I try more and more into that occult field for this
It was
day.
like, I think I read what it was 2014 is when you really started like getting into like really started doing the research into the books and
Yeah.
stuff, the literature.
Yeah. Yeah, there was like let's say it's combination of pretty different things, and like maybe some psychedelic experience too. But it all kind of combination of that, and like I'm kind of view my world in a kind of occult stuff or lenses of occult on that kind of deeper level almost all the time. So it's kind of natural to me, and I try to look at like things in a like larger picture, but at the same time try to keep my fucking foot in the ground and use my skeptic lenses and being rational, of course, like not to be like hooky spooky kind of guy, just to keep the right balance between the things.
And you mentioned the horror too. Like, are you like
Yeah.
a 80s horror fan or 70s or, the Italian films?
Pretty much. Well, of course, like there was those first, like Hellraiser was the first. Actually, that we had that song called Hellslaughter. It was first called Hellraiser, but I didn't want to use that because it was so clear. So I think when I got to that fucking Hellslaughter title, I think I was like, what the fuck? I think because the lyrics are basically just the Hellraiser stuff. But I remember I had that first Tiamat LP in my shelf, and I look at the one of the guy's name, and that said like Hellslaughter. I said, okay, that's the title. But yeah, that's definitely one of the horror influenced stuff we had the early days. But yeah, I'm the fan of like the Italian stuff, like those Dario Argento and like Lucio Fulci films, and most importantly, I'm the fan of the soundtracks too. Like I think that Fabio Frizzi have done very fucking good stuff with the. I had the Beyond, like LP, and that's one of my fucking favorite things these days. I listen to that stuff quite often.
Actually, I would love to get him on the show actually one day.
Yeah,
And you mentioned Hellslaughter, which is perfect because it leads me into we're going to play Hellslaughter in a second here, actually, because you 2001, you guys are involved with a split with Devilly Rot out of Sweden, and that's set up from Iron Pegasus, right?
yeah, that's kind of start of that. It was the first. Uh, I think Costa contact us, like he liked our demo and stuff like that. But he said, like you guys want us to do some, do you have some extra stuff? And actually, I said, yeah, like, yeah, we did, because we actually we're kind of, like we put just 5 songs on the demo and left 2 songs alone just for that kind of occasion. So that happened quite naturally. But yeah, it ended up doing Devilly Rot. But at the first, it should be like being with the pagan rites. But of course, he was a pagan rite singer too. So it's just, like maybe pagan rites didn't have a, like amount of material, and he had his own solo thing. So that was the reason.
I think at that time, Devilly Rot had only one demo, and I think at that time in 2001.
Yeah.
How did you get involved with Costa? Obviously, he's also the guitarist of Euronymous and the owner of Iron Pegasus.
Yeah, like I mentioned, I think we sent some label, or it could be maybe Jarno give us a hint, but I think I actually sent our demo, and he started writing me back. So like, yeah, this stuff is fucking cool, and yeah, we should, like think about doing an album and stuff like that. So yeah.
I'm gonna play Hellslaughter right now from the Explosion of Hell was the name of the split from 2001 with Devilly Rot, came out on Iron Pegasus, and we'll play that now. This is Hellslaughter, and we'll be back with Black Venom after this track from Flame. And that was Flame with Hellslaughter. Now back 2001, 2002, what are some of the bands you're doing shows with?
Let me see. Well, I think, we did quite a lot of shows with the local shows with in town, like Lahti town. And of course there's like that Evil Angel band, who's actually those two guys are now member of our band. They're just starting their band. So they were kind of our friendship band, and Slukator as well. You know Slukator? Yeah. So with them also, and I think like those gigs were fucking great memories. We have a really like different kind of bands, but we have a same fucking passion to doing our own stuff, and of course drinking and partying stuff, like with no problem.
Did you go on tour with Urn and Sabat and Unpure in 2000?
Yeah, I was a guitarist, and actually, like that tour with Unpure and Sabbath, Jarno asked the Crusher too, like should we both join? So of course we joined because that was a fucking great opportunity, like at least to go fucking abroad. We did actually I still got the shirt here. I kinda knew you were gonna ask, so there's all the dates. This is like that Unpure shirt.
How much dates was it? Was it 6 or 7 dates?
There's like 2 gigs in Finland, Turku and Kuopio, and there was like 5 gigs in Sweden. And they basically one of the show called I remember it got cancelled. The venue got cancelled, but instead because the in Aeternum from Sweden, they actually joined the play as well. So they got really fancy, like rehearsal place. It was kind of, like almost like a small stage. There were fucking skulls and everything, good atmosphere. So they organized it happening there. But of course there was like maybe 30, maximum 40 people. But it was, when the Sabbath played there, it was like a full show, like really inside thing, like. That was cool that happened because, the venue got cancelled and we were like, what the fuck we gonna do? And, like, this sucks. But, we end up a good solution. Or they.
When you joined Urn, that was like what? Right after they signed with Damnation Records, they did the 666 Megatons record, right? And then you came into the band because that one was Jarno and Tuska.
Yeah. Well, basically, when I like get to know the Jarno, and basically after that last tour they did with Bathroom, he say like we are always going his place, and he say like he's gonna be like continuing that Urn, but in a kind of different kind of style, like more old school style. And of course I was like kind of fanboy straight ahead, and like I actually they when they did that promo tape 97, and they have all those there like pictures to Mikko and Jarno and Pimea, and that I took those photos from like
shit.
And it was the old bathroom place they still used, in those early days. But I was just a hang-around fanboy. But of course, and I didn't, like, I didn't have an expectation that they even started, like, asking me like a proper member, because of course, I was like underage guy then, and I feel like those are the old boys, and I'm just a fucking little bastard. But yeah, Jarno saying like, "Hey, do you want to join?" I was like, "Yeah."
Yeah, because you said what, you were like 15, 16, right? You're like 16 at that time? You joined and what, Tuska left the band, and that's when Marcus, right? Hellwind Inferno joins in 2004?
Yeah, I think, Jarno was a little bit tired of that Tuska guy, because he's always kind of, well, of course we're using his parents' house to rehearsals and stuff like that, but when we start to organizing things, he's got always something weird explanation like, "Oh, I'm not going there. I'm not going there," and stuff like that.
I'm trying to remember, but I believe that Jarno was telling us something like you guys were supposed to go do shows. I think you guys were going to go on tour, and you guys actually had to go try to get him out of his house. He wasn't going to come. He didn't want to go.
Yeah,
on the tour.
I think we had that. It was something really fucking silly thing, like I was like, what the fuck? And I think like, because I living then. Before we go there, I was, like coming to Tampere, with my mom's place, like day before, and even my mom says like, how the fuck you have that kind of pussy in the band? I was like, yeah. They're like, you have to fucking carry that guy around. Yeah, we do that. Yeah, no problem. And we
Yeah, I
did, but
remember
it
Jarno
was
telling me
fucking
about that.
weird. Yeah.
You know, and with Flame still at that time period though, right? 2004, you guys do the 4-song promo. No, you guys put out what, November? I think you guys recorded maybe November 1st. And at that time, it's you, Infernus, Pima, and Black Spirit on that promo, correct?
Yeah. We basically did that, and I think that time that that Juha Noise Hunter joined us as a second guitarist too. So yeah, it was that time. Yeah, really, like we did that, or a little bit after actually. I think we did that on 3-piece. Yeah, and like Juha joins in a couple. Yeah, 2 years later. Yeah,
And where did you guys record the 2004 promo?
in our rehearsal place. We just got to like, because we get to know those like Lantern Gun, and he knows some couple of guys who had really good like microphone sets, so we did our own setups, and like they actually the Lander singer Lander guitarist Kimmo like set them up and did the kind of engineering thing for that, but it was kind of like still kind of raw sounding stuff, but it still was a proper recording for sure.
You guys also did a Morbid Split, which was like what, 5 tracks from the 2000 demo when Crusher was still with you guys. And you guys released that with Asphyxiate Recordings out of Australia.
Yeah, that was actually was it that a split with Castley? I think I can't remember. Yeah, because I think our drummer made the deal. He just called me that he got some like email from some Australian label, and they want to do split release with the Australian band called Ghastly, and we actually just there was nothing new there. It's just for our demo tape, and we put that up. So that demo tape have been released quite many times actually. Just a demo, and actually Juha put that in 2015 in like full format, because there was that all those like 7-inch split songs and everything. So Juha said like, hey, I'm gonna, because he want to release their first Lantern EP with his own label. So he said like, maybe I can just do CD release for that, like that demo day for like a full length, like with 7 songs. So I said, yeah, no problem.
You also did your first recording with Urn was 2005, right? You guys did that promo 2005, which had Possessed by Satan on it and Rise for Necromancy.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, we did that in. We recorded that in Lahti, and with help of one of those guys who plays in Sacrilegious Impalement. Actually, that's the same guys. They have help us a lot, because in this new Flame record we used their drum kit, and he like they organized for drum recording for us, and they have like proper studio stuff there. So yeah, but yeah, that guy is, we call him Asa. So Asa did the engineering, and yeah,
That was
that was
INRI
before
Studios.
Yeah, I think he's just named that for. I think he's definitely had his studio basically, if I'm correct. So yeah.
You guys, in 2005, you guys also put out the band's first full length, Into the Age of Fire, which came out on 12-inch and CD. How did it feel to get the first full length out, actually? With 8 tracks, and you guys, most of the songs, there was new songs on there. Some of them were older songs too, from like 99 and 2000 on that.
Yeah, of course it was really cool, like have that out, but we have actually a lot of problems back then, because that Thomas Crusher guy with the band, there was some fucking stupid issues with the like actually he was a little bit, because Mikko got his first kids, and things started getting a little bit slower, and Thomas was kind of guy, like he had a hard time waiting stuff to happen. So he kind of basically, it was that reason he get out, but there was some, like, because we were pals, and there was like some kind of fucking party shit going on, and like we end up fucking dating, or not dating, but you know what I mean, with the same girl, and so that was a nail in the coffin. But but yeah, and actually, the engineer was that Into the Edge of Fire, the mix, Kimmo did from London. Again, we actually called him like, we need help, like, and he didn't, he's just saying, like, I haven't done any more than demo stuff. I say, yeah, well, that's your chance now. Let's do an album, but basically we just, like, let's do it raw, let's do it what is come out, and that's it, basically. So it is definitely our rawest recording for sure, because we got that kind of fucking attitude, like, fuck you all, just let it out, like Venom style, basically.
And that was also, and I could be incorrect, but that was the last time you and Pima pretty much wrote and everything for the band, right? That was pretty much one of the only times that, like, I know Crusher threw some riffs in there, and I think you had maybe someone else throw some riffs in there too, but that was the last time you guys had out pretty much at you and Pima writing all the stuff after that.
Yeah, exactly. Well, basically, like, I usually do almost everything by myself, but of course I went to Pima doing some arrangements for the song, so of course things can change sometimes with the better, I think. But yeah, there was at least one or two riffs, maybe. Yeah, one riff by Crusher. I think it was a song called Internal Rat Infernal Hate. There's that kind of picking riff is his riff, at least. And there's a song called Poison Kingdom. And there's one guy, actually, I had to mention, like, we that was a guy who lived next to Jarnos, and we did that jamming together. And we actually had the project together as well, called, it's really silly name project, called Heretic Torment. But we actually did kind of rehearsal tape too with that band, and I actually used some of the material from that, stuff to Flame. And actually, funny thing is I still find it, like, this newest upcoming album, there's going to be some really old stuff there, but I kind of reorganize the riff basis. But I've kind of, sometimes I find it, like, kind of cool way to do that, like, combine, like, your old roots, put in the new format. It's just me.
You guys used Iron Pegasus for that one too.
Yeah.
So how long did you guys spend in the studio for that? Like, actual recording time?
It was just, I think, 2 weekends, and we just, like, doing, like, all the equipment we just use our rehearsal place for that recording. But of course we have lots of mics and stuff like that. But the setup was pretty, like, kind of a raw stuff. But yeah, we did all the instruments. Actually, there's a funny fact there, because that's recording that is actually pretty fucking fast. There's some songs we couldn't even fucking play today in that speed. So I think when we started doing the drum recordings, Mikko, our drummer, says, like, hey, I have some issues with kids. I have to go my home pretty quickly. I just have, like, less than fucking 3 hours. So let's do this quick. I said, okay, and he started playing like a motherfucker's beat. And just for fucking, I think he mentioned, like, I had to go my home to fucking cook for, like, fucking French fries to my kids or something like that. Really, like, okay. So that's why it's when I started doing guitar riffing, I just realized, like, this is fucking super fast. But we can, okay, this is the way. Just leave it that, just don't chase it. Let's do it that way. So it's fucking super speedy record for sure.
Yeah, we actually opened up the show tonight with Arts of the Black Wisdom.
Yeah.
And it's actually 20th year anniversary, right, of that. You guys are actually doing a tape release for that and a shirt release?
Yeah, there's a Canadian label contact me, or actually it was just because I tried to find a label for us, but he said, like, just make a suggestion, like, maybe he's gonna be release some tape releases for our old stuff. So he's planning to do all those old releases on tapes, like, chronological order. And so yeah, I don't know exact date, but I think maybe early next year, at least the tape is out. And then I already made the, like, the some ideas for him to get doing the shirt too. So there's probably gonna be long sleeve shirt too, and at least like t-shirt.
And in 2006, you do your first full length with Urn. You guys do Dawn of Devastation. Again, like we mentioned earlier, you worked with Sammy Jamson on that again, who, obviously
Yeah.
Jarno has worked with before. What do you remember about the recording sessions for that album?
Well, yeah, that was a little bit different because he actually, I think he still used that Studio Perkele name, but he has totally changed the location. Location was, in Riihimäki, quite near Helsinki. But, he had built his basically his garage. He have moved to all the, it was a proper studio. And it was kind of good experience, but we have some fucking issues with, or actually Jarno has some issues fucking play the bass in that, because I think we did everything quite quickly, and our rehearsal place back then in Urn, what was quite fucking messy sound. So Jarno had really problems, and we have to, quite limited amount of time. So I basically Jarno say like, hey, just fucking play that bass in that record. I say, yeah, whatever. But actually, I had quite a challenge to do that fucking, because I didn't. Of course, they were quite a little bit simple songs, but I still had to practice a couple of hours before I started doing the recording. But yeah, and the mixing is that album is like, maybe it's not that good that we expected, but we have some fucking rush to do that for some reason. I think there was something happened. I don't know what. But there was some, so fucking we have to do everything so hurry.
When you did the first Flame full length, was it different doing that Dawn of Devastation record with Sammy?
Not really. He's always been a nice guy, but yeah, he has quite a strict style. If he has some, his own ideas. It's usually very maybe he should listen band more, at least trying, sometimes. But anyway, he's a cool guy, and it wasn't that much issue. But it was pretty, okay session. And actually, we have when we got everything nailed, he put us fucking proper breakfast, and there was a fucking saunas and everything. So that was pretty good still.
Also around this time, you become a part of Adorior from out of the UK. Now, did you join the same time that Ian, aka Shrapnel, joined? Shrapnel from Destroyer 666 and Nocturnal Graves. Did you guys join that band at the same time?
Yeah, pretty much, because in that time, Melissa and Shrapnel, they were a married couple, and when we go to the rehearsals there, of course in that time was the reason why it was quite easy to do that, because there was those cheap flights from Finland, Ryanair flights. They were fucking super cheap. They was actually fucking amazing. They were cheaper than going to train from here, from my hometown to, from Tampere to Kuopio in train back in those days. It was crazy. But, we have that cool opportunity to go in, get a little bit to going flying there in Thursday, for example, doing rehearsals in all weekend and practicing and writing new stuff or something like that, and going back on Monday, going longer weekends. And we did a couple of those, of course, before the shows we had back then, couple stuff like that. So yeah, but basically I joined the same time, I think. Yeah.
How did you meet Melissa, aka Jaded Lungs, and drummer D Molester? Did you know them prior? Were you the replacement for TKOS?
No, it was well. It's quite a. I think I was quite a proper member straight ahead, not quite because the Adorior was kind of split up for a while, because Chris was here, and of course they did that fucking Order of Incense, which is brilliant record, but I think that time, because Chris moved here in Finland in 2006, and they were basically they didn't that much band. But the first time I met those was we did a small tour with them when I played in Urn. So there was some he was that same organization who do that Turku Saatana thing nowadays. Guy called Jussi, very good promoter guy. He's organized during the years so many gigs for us, and many bands. But there was his band. It was a band called x-Aggressor. They played that kind of thrash, just kind of like quite proper thrash, like that kind of fucking Bay Area style thrash. And he wanted to put that in the spreading their name, but there was like Urn, them, and Adorior. So that was the first time, and that I think that was 2007.
I heard about that tour now. So
Yes.
I heard that like it was wild times with Adorior. Like they were a band that was wild on the road. And I heard some of the stories from that tour. Would you say the same thing? I heard it was pretty intense.
Yeah, they were fucking intense, like gig were intense, but more intense probably, like off stage. Let's say, put it that way. They were like quite a
A
fucking
lot of partying, I heard, like
oh yeah,
all
yeah,
hours
yeah.
of the night and stuff.
Yeah, there was like fucking chaos going on, like, but of course, like, and many sleepless hours, but at least it was fucking fun as hell.
When was your first gig with them? Like you playing with Adorior?
It was in London in I think it was 2010. There was one cool gig. There was actually Mortuary Drape headlining, and there was actually what are the other bands? Maybe there was like Troneum from Poland and a band called Citian. They were actually like English band, but I know the guitar singer guy. He's actually I think he's still living probably in London, but he's really a Finnish guy. But it's his band and Adorior. Yeah.
And at that time, back with Urn, you're writing material with Yarno, right? For Soul Destroyer, is that next record? Because I know
Yeah.
you're credited for a couple of the songs. You're credited
Yeah,
for the
I
Black
did.
Steel Worship and the title track.
Yeah, Black Steel Worship was musically my song, and so the main song, the title track, the Soul Destroyer song. But I didn't did any lyrics. I think Marcus even write some lyrics in that album too, but I didn't involve in the lyrics. If I'm correct, I probably got that title, that Black Steel Worship. Like yeah, that was probably my title, but I didn't did any lyrics. But yeah, musically they were my songs. Yeah.
Well, and with Flame, you handle all the lyrics, correct?
Yeah, yeah. Definitely, like, of course, I have nothing against if someone is like, "Hey, I can do some lines," like, no problem. But but in these days, like those lyrics have so much deeper meaning and layers, so personalized. So it's quite natural to do that.
When you guys are doing the Soul Destroyers record, Urn, you guys did this at Phantom Studios, who's done like Behexen's recorded there, Rotten
Yeah,
Sound, Sargeist. Is that the first like real pro studio you were in?
yeah, I think so. Yeah, that's probably correct because we haven't like used it like rooms, but they weren't that because they have really like high quality equipment and many at least like the guy mentioned like what amp do you have like that there's like angles like pretty much everything I can imagine have the opportunity to use. And yeah, it was like first time in that kind of high quality studio for sure. Yeah.
And how many days did it take you to do the guitars for that?
Mm, I think 2 or 3 days. I think 2 days we did the rhythms, maybe even a little bit less, but because there was like kind of the solos and squeals and stuff like that. So they were the last, so that was the one. I think one separate day for that. So I think 3 days, yeah.
And you
So there
guys,
was like
that's
2 weekends for that, I think.
and you guys
And
also
mixing, yeah.
you guys also hook up with Dynamic Arts Records on that record. Was that an exciting time for Urn when you were at that? Well, you guys are like dealing with that label.
Well, yeah, because I think it was Jarno say, like because in that time, like Dynamic Arts put up, like bands like Dead Chain, and they became quite a huge band. But of course, I think they started to use like their own booking agencies quite straight ahead, so they got good offer of the gigs, and they pretty much fucking did they, like every fucking town and place you can imagine. And maybe Jano got the ideas like maybe like we could go in there, we got same kind of stuff, but there was some fucking problematic issues start to like occur because I think it's not there was nothing to do with the band really, but but I think that Soul Destroyer times basically Jarno was kind of started doing divorcing with his girlfriend at that time, and Marcus too. So there was kind of a little bit like stiff attitudes, like in rehearsals and stuff like that, and they were like Jarno skipping some rehearsals and stuff like that, that, and I was kind of my eyes sideways, like putting, like I started writing a new Flame songs or stuff like that. So, and I don't, yeah, there was that kind of fucking issues around. So that was kind of when I decided, hey, I think I'm going. I have to move, like because I had the real passion to do that new Flame record soon and stuff like that. But of course, that was huge disappointment to Jarno, but at least he found quite quickly, like those new members, and they did quite good tour with that Black Steel Worship tour. What I've heard.
Jarno's a driven guy, and and I'm gonna play Black Steel Worship here from Urn. I have to mention the cover though, which is totally different than the Dawn of Devastation cover. Done by Katarina Korpai.
Yeah, I think those are basically Jarno knew that girl who did that. I don't know. I think at first it was just a shared idea, but I think we started, like Jarno got the. Well, it was Jarno's idea, of course, in the end, to put that. But yeah, it's different for sure.
Yeah, it definitely stands out of the Urn covers. But I'm gonna play Urn Black Steel Worship now from the Soul Destroyers record that came out on Dynamic Arts Records in 2008, and we'll be back with Black Venom after this track from Urn. and that was Black Steel Worship from Urn. And like you said, Soul Destroyers is released, and you leave the band in 2009. So I like, and, you know, like you were saying before we took the song break, you're starting to focus on Flame. You want to start doing this again, and you know that.
Yeah,
I mean,
because I already started to, like writing material for that upcoming March into Firelands, our second album. Oh, yeah, I have that process in. So when I left, I just fucking started writing more and more and more, and it escalated pretty quickly. I got that stuff ready, but of course, like we have a little bit cap, like the work out there, because we didn't have any cover. But of course, in that time, like even Primitive Reaction guy say like, hey, I have, yeah, no problem. So if you look some cover, I could easily pay for you for that, and everything went quite smoothly. And actually, that March in the Firelands cover was actually Chris founded that picture, and that guy Johan Jo Castellone. And when I saw that picture, I said like, "That's fucking it. That's my fucking vision there in the fucking. It's got everything in that picture, in my
yeah,
opinion.
definitely. You
Yeah,
know, and I mean, when you go back to Flame, it's funny because if you look at like Flame and Urn, you guys, it's like a family tree kind of. You had
yeah,
Pima who was in there from 94 to 98, Mika who was the bassist of
yeah,
2016, 17, and Furnace 94, 98, and then Crusher 2000. You guys definitely have that relationship there where it's been like,
yeah. Of course, we hadn't that bad issues. Of course, when I left, like we pretty much, like I haven't been to contact Jarno that much, but yeah, back in the days, we were all, like big family. We try to help each other as much as we can, like, but of course, like you get crossfires, like when you are two or three different bands, even, like it, they really, like they cause you some problems, but yeah, but we were totally like one big family for sure.
and it's also Flame becomes a four-piece on this record, right? Because you guys bring
Yes,
in Noise Hunter Ghoul on guitar
yeah.
also. Because you don't play guitar on this record.
I play guitar, but I wanted, like the second guitarist in the band. And he actually, like he's one of my, like childhood friends. And, there's a little bit funny fact now because we basically nowadays relatives because my wife is his little sister.
Shit.
Yeah.
Nice.
So, and we have a son, so we more family tree, like a
Yeah.
real deal.
And you guys start working, like you mentioned earlier, with Primitive Reaction out of Finland, who has like on Barathrum, Beharit, Hate Forest, and stuff on there. How's that relationship at that time period for you guys with the label?
Yeah. But I think, yeah, it's working pretty good. I think there wasn't any that kind of bad issues, anything like that.
And you're also doing on the side live, you're doing guitars with a band called Crosswrecker in 2010 live shows.
Yeah, okay. I totally actually forgot that. Yeah, I did. Uh, yeah, I remember that. I knew that guy, that Chaos Bringer. He's actually a singer of that Sacrilegious Impalement for when they started. So he was all those guys. He's actually very like supporting for Flame. He's like Flame fan, always been Flame fan, our gigs and everything. So I think he just like suddenly I remember some festival or something. He said he has some new band and he probably needs some help and are you interested or something like that? He said to me like, and I was actually pretty drunk then. Remember, I was like, yeah, sure, man. But yeah, then it's we actually like I just basically try to help them.
How many
So yeah,
shows
we
did you
did
do
that
with
one
them?
show. Yeah, two shows we did.
You do that, and you're also Adorior. You guys actually go into the studio. You go do what? Record 2 songs in 2010 at Tortured Soul Studios in Germany for a split with Terrorama out of Sweden on Nuclear War Now Productions. So yeah, so what do you remember about that recording session? And because you guys recorded Gutters of Cum, which I'll play in a little bit, and a cover of Blessed Death's 10,000 Days of
Yeah.
Bloodshed.
So yeah, it got actually I think that split was I Hate Record, if I'm correct. Not Nuclear War Now. But
Okay, so it's
yeah, no, it was I Hate Records. Yeah, I remember that quite clearly. But yeah, I think maybe Melissa got some offer, you know, like that kind of idea, and well, we said got yes, and because Chris have worked in that Gutters song for quite a while, so we decided, okay, let's put that there. But they have also have ideas, you know, like that both of bands should be doing some cover, and of course we. Melissa and those thinking like, you know, like maybe we should do Slayer cover, and Chris was straight ahead like, no, we're not raping Slayer. No. We have to do something more obscure, and that Blessed Death band is actually very fucking nice band, but really underrated, and it's kind of one of those bands, you know, nobody kind of knew. So we thought, okay, that's our fucking band we're gonna be doing. And actually, with that song, I actually put a lot of my own effort in the riffing because it was it's actually quite a weird song in a way. And we had to kind of put our own stuff into that. So I kind of tried to do some little bit different arrangements of the songs and riffing a little bit. But, you know, it was turning out very good. I think so.
And you, with your time with Adorior, like, was it like a, you know, did you guys like, it was what? Chris, as you mentioned, D Molester, Shrapnel, and Melissa,
Yeah.
Jaded Lungs. How was it? Did you guys all, was it like a great experience the time you were with them? Because you played with them for some time.
Yeah, definitely. And of course, you know, like, I think, you know, like, of course, I have to thank those cheap Ryanair flights for that time. But yeah, it was, you know, and of course, it was really challenging for me personally, but at the same time, very fun because the Adorior style is very fucking quite a complex in a way. It's got really intense stuff, but you really have to be in, you know, like, with the same fucking intent with your own instrument as the music. So it's like, yeah, it was challenge, but you know, yeah, I don't no regrets. I fucking enjoyed every fucking second in that band.
You did, now, if I'm correct, you did 2011. You played Rites of Darkness 3 Fest in San Antonio, Texas.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
and
that was your first time in the States.
yes, yeah, and I must say, you know, like that is fucking probably my highlight experience as a playing live fucking ever. That show was fucking out of this world experience. That was amazing. There were fucking over 500 people, and actually there were lots of bands, and I think that era there were lots of that kind of doomy kind of death metal bands in there, and maybe people were a little bit kind of not boring, but you know, not that. But when we came with that intense in the, you know, and you know, like crazy female vocalist on the, you know, like stage, we kind of fucking explode the whole place. It
You
was
guys
fucking
played with
brilliant.
Black Witchery out of Florida, Nunslaughter, Hell Militia, I believe, played that show.
Yeah, there were many bands, and I remember the best memories that I had that festivals, you know, like of course it's that fucking thing we actually played, but when we did the parties and, you know, like meeting up people, I met, you know, like Chuck Keller, you know, like legendary Order from Chaos, one of my fucking absolute favorite bands, and you know, like I love RS Kingdom too, but that guy is fucking one of a kind because he actually had done, you know, like been in contact with Quarton of Battery quite a long time actually. If you don't know, he's actually been in contact with Quarton since, you know, like late 80s, and he's actually wearing one of his belt, you know, like there in the festival. So I was like, what the fuck, holy shit, this is amazing.
What was your impressions of the United States when you first get there? This is like
Well,
2011, so it's a different time period then.
yeah, of course, you know, that was basically quite around just before, not actually Christmas, but just before that. It was a little bit weird in San Antonio because I could imagine there were like lots of people everywhere and stuff like that, but that feels like a little bit like a ghost town. But actually, some guy mentioned that that's just before, you know, like because it's not, you know, like proper Christmas yet. So in the 2 weeks, there's gonna be massive fucking everywhere lights and everything. But you know, it was cool experience, you know, like, and we went to actually we went to guitar shops, you know, like instrument shops to buy our guitars. So that guitar I use today was bought in that same trip
Oh, okay.
in
Bought
San
that in
Antonio.
San Antonio.
Yeah.
I'm going to play Adorior right here. I'm going to play Gutters Of Cum from the 2010 split. And yeah, we'll be back with Black Venom after this track from Adorior. This is Gutters Of Cum. That was Adorior with Gutters Of Cum. So 2012, you leave Adorior. What was the reason you decided to leave the band? Was it the travel eventually and the distance?
Yes, it's getting more harder, and it's just basically it was that that traveling was too much. Even the Chris say like this is nothing. This is too much. Like for us, and of course we have our like our jobs in here, like normal jobs and stuff like that. So it's just getting like it was a sad thing, but it has to do like and we say to them that keep on looking members, and actually like I think like Melissa and Ian basically split off too as a couple, so that was kind of issue as well. So
And, we always say on the show, you can always say what you want, not, don't say what you don't want, but I know you're a father. So when do you become a father? And does that play part of it too? You have a family now and stuff. Does that make things, I don't know how old your son, right, is?
yeah, my son is 8 years old. So and that happened at the time when I went in playing in Purtenance.
Oh,
So
yes, that's what we'll talk
yeah,
about that too. Yeah.
yeah,
In 2013, was that the first time you played Steelfest? Because you played with Flame.
yeah, 2013. Yeah, that was the first time we played there. Yeah, and that was good, very cool experience too. There was no bad experience with me playing there ever.
In 2014, you also become the drummer of the black thrash metal band called Demon's Gate. And when did you start playing
Yeah,
drums? What age did you start actually fucking around on drums?
well, that was probably like around 2013, 14. I got my own, like I bought a because I basically divorced as well my old girlfriend, and I was kind of single guy, and I was like, okay, I have more room in here because it's the same place I still live. So I used that room for I ordered a fucking electric drum kit and started doing fucking because I think like if I had that and I still got some extra money left, I bought those and I think it's like easier to doing demos and stuff like that, and like and of course I was interested in playing drums too.
You guys did what, 5-track demo in 2014 titled Dark Majestic Metal with Demon's Gate. Did you do shows with the band? And why did you wind up leaving the band in
Yeah.
2015?
No, it was that was a funny story. Because yeah, like I mentioned, I was like single guy back then, and yeah, and I I went to like basically in a bar because I knew like there was kind of that time there was like quite new rock bar there in town, but I go to check that out, and yeah, I was like quite a hammered, and then I there in the bar, and like probably were more interesting, probably looking more like female company, but I accidentally end up to join band instead. So then were that Tommy guy who did who was a that was his band. He came to me like, "Hey, I know you are Simo, you're from Flame, and you love Master's Hammer, and actually he's one of those crazy guys. He have fucking big Master's Hammer logo tattoo in his chest." And I was like, "Okay, that's something." But and he say like, "I wanna like form kind of Master's Hammer style band, but doing own things too, and I'll be looking for a drummer." And I say, like, I'm not a real drummer, but he say, like, you're definitely a good guy. Then I was like, okay, that sounds weird, but yeah, let's try that out. And yeah,
So that was the only time you've ever recorded drums was when you guys did the Dark Majestic Metal
yeah, and actually,
demo?
yeah, it was a little bit funny too, like that recording. I never expected that they wanna do that as a real because I was prepared to do, like, uh, just rehearsal tape. What they actually do that, like we use actually my recording. I still using like my riffing if I like writing some riffs to Flame. So we used that hand recorder, just put that in. It was completely like uh almost like 80%, actually 80% live recording, and then they just add vocals. I've never heard before that, like even Tommy's vocals, like before that they made. And like, it was quite a funny experience, but and of course I said, after that, like if you want to continue this, I don't have a skills because I feel like, yeah, you need fucking better guy.
That's why you left.
Yeah, definitely. They were younger than me, actually, like I feel like I'm with the talented, because those guys were like multi-talented. If I'm multi-talented, they were like 10 times more multi-talented. I was like looking at them like some guys fucking, they were like keyboard and they just doing keyboard solo for I don't know. I was like, what the fuck? Where the fuck I am?
And you mentioned Purtenance. Now, you joined that band on guitar in 2015, but you actually did guest vocals on their 2013 album, Awaken from Slumber, on the track Temptation of Suicide.
Yeah, when there was actually that Harry, who is the drummer of the band, we actually, I realized he came to as a worker guy to our company, or you know, at the same company. Although they were like a different groups, but you know, because I was away, I didn't like concentration kind of, you know, like we fixing, you know, people water damages and stuff like that. That kind of work. So he was kind of under the same group, but I suddenly realized I was actually away out doing some other shit, but I came back to same work again, and then my boss at that time say to me when I was at the first day, then you know, hey, there's some metal guy actually here working now called Harry. He's played that band called Purtenance. I said, do you know? I was like, okay, I didn't know him, but you know, of course, we went to the coffee room and start talking, and he was like, hey, we have, you know, like, because I lived in Nokia back then also, so he's just saying like, hey, you should visit our rehearsal place just for fun and stuff like that. So it things started escalating, and they asked me, you know, like doing guest vocal for one of their songs.
Kind of led you to join in the band eventually.
Yeah, they have some issues with the guitarist, and yeah, they just asked, you know, because I had, you know, like free time to do that, and yeah.
And are you doing shows with the band too right away?
Yeah, we did actually. I can't remember. We did actually quite many shows in Helsinki and stuff like that. Of course, the main thing was actually before I left the band, we did a full European tour in 2018.
2015, you guys released in Flame, you guys released the studio sessions, but that was just again, that we talked about it earlier about re-releasing that 2000 demo.
It's kind of full, that demo recording put in you know, like the full format with all those 7 songs we
Then the Explosion
yeah,
7-inch split.
Yes.
And with Flame, 2014, 15, 16, you guys are doing shows with Violenter. We had Alessio on here probably like 2 months ago, I think it was. Hobbs Angel of Death, Mausoleum Gate, Blood Chalice. Who are some of your favorite bands that you're playing shows with at that time period?
With Purtenance.
Purtenance, you guys played with Niflheim.
Well, very fucking many good bands. It's yeah, I think. Well, one of fucking what we have. Well, of course, during the years we have fucking with Flame we have done, you know, like with Hope, like I would say, like Hope, the Angel of Death, we actually warm up them, and you know, like Niflheim and stuff like that. And of course, with Purtenance, we play lots of fucking classic death metal stuff. You know, all those bands, fucking Rippikoulu and everything, those kind of bands. So there's many.
2017, you know, back to the Purtenance, you guys you do an EP with them, Paradox of Existence, 4 tracks.
Yes.
That's recorded in the band's rehearsal room?
Yeah, it's just rehearsal room, because they have actually, you know, like quite good equipments there and computers and, you know, like all those stuff to recording. So they actually basically always recorded at least the drums and stuff there. But yeah, that EP actually had 2 like musically my songs, 2 songs. That second song, which is Seeds of Immortality, and you know, that Paradox song, they were actually my songs, and actually I ended up doing lyrics too, which was quite surprising, because I don't know, it's just that Ville say, you know, like, hey, let's do it that way. If you like lyricist, I was like, okay, maybe I'm not. I try to do some different. Of course, I like kind of like more their style lyrics, not put in my satanic stuff into their lyrics. But you know, yeah, it was quite challenging experience, but a pretty interesting one too.
And you left that band, what, 2019?
Yeah, yeah. I actually say, you know, like when we did that tour, of course, you know, they are older guys, and I just basically had my son, like year earlier. So I thought, like I don't want to be in a way because this kind of schedule, if they want to do more those kind of tour, it's probably gonna be hard for me to do. So I was like saying, no guys, like I want to give you support in another way, but I don't want to be in the band anymore because you need some member who can organize stuff. And, like if you want to do that, because I know they're fucking older guys, like at least you're, age guys, probably a little bit more older. So I think, like they have to do that, like, so that's why.
And then 2020 in the Flame camp, Furnace leaves, right? And Noise Hunter Ghoul leaves the band. What was the reason they left? And is that when you and Pima start working on material for the 5-track EP that comes out
Yeah,
next?
well, we had, like quite many issues with Infernus in the past because he was he's fucking the best guy in the world, but he just, like when he's end up doing drinking, he like walking catastrophe. He's actually broke his arm many times. He has actually broke his leg very badly. Like I think it was 2012. We had very hard time. We didn't have to go anywhere because of that. Because that he can't even like do a proper like running even these days because of that food thing. I don't know what fucking happened. It's something really bad happened to him in that time. Like maybe he was crushed by some car, but he was drunk. He can't remember even that. Like he ended up in hospital and stuff like that. But anyway, when I started working those new songs, we have hard times to set up rehearsals, and of course I have that like newborn baby and stuff like that. I tell to Mikko, that our drummer, that we need some guy who can like practicing his own, because every time we working on new stuff, I had to show Infernus hand by hand how the riffs goes and everything. I basically say probably I say to him, I send like I call him, say like we need some guy, like I'm sorry man, but we just need some guy, like who can do like maybe a video rehearsals sometimes if we need it or something like that. So yeah, that's why we have to and Noise Hunter left because he basically, when he listened those tracks, he say like, I have really hard times. Your riffing is fucking intense in this, and he have just joined in the band called Cadaveric Incubator, playing bass, and he's really enjoying to do that. And they have lots of gigs coming and stuff like that. And he's just say, like, it's probably better that I'm just leaving the band and just starting to work with your own, doing whatever you want. And of course, he's always been supportive, and of course he's like now like real member of the family and stuff like. Of course he's giving support like like in every level like he can.
And yeah, that's when you and Pima start working on the EP that comes out next, the 5 tracks. Am I saying this right? Ignis Spiritus?
Yeah, Ignis Spiritus is Latin phrase for fire spirit.
Was that material written after they left the band, or was that most of that written before they left? I
No,
know you said
actually, that material actually was pretty fucking. I had those songs, or at least like most part of the songs ready. At least like in 2015, 16, in that era. So they were kind of in my closet, to just waiting to being unleashed. And I think we decided, like, because we were in that, because I was like, what the hell we going to do with the lineup and everything. So we kind of take that as, like, we should maybe do that on EP. And our label said, I said label, like, sorry, but I think because he was labeled like, maybe you guys can do it full, like, and I was a little bit worried about our future in that point, like, because probably, like, okay, yeah, I know guys, but every guys in a scene should be very fucking busy these days. So I was kind of, so we just did that, and that kind of end up pretty fucking good in my opinion. That all recording.
And the
And
artwork on that was Anti
yeah,
Samalainen.
yeah,
Used on that. A goat prayer also he goes by. So I'm gonna play Fire Spirit of Rebellion from that EP. And then we're gonna talk to you about a few more things, the new record, and then we'll let you get out of here and stuff. But what can you tell us about Fire Spirit of Rebellion?
yeah. Of course, it's quite a standout song, and of course, it's like the representation of my point of view of Luciferian spirit.
Go. And we're gonna play that now. We're gonna play Firespirit of Rebellion from Flame, and we'll be back with Black Venom after this track. And that was Flame with Firespirit of Rebellion. 2021, you guys add Mika Too Loud to the band. He was involved in Evil Angel. Then you also add another guitar player.
Yeah, and they both were those like Evil Angel guy, and of course the Too Loud of plays also with the Sacrilegious Impalement. So I knew those guys for ages, and when we talk with Mikko with the new lineup, I was straight ahead. Like first thing in my mind, I asked those guys, and they are like know each other for ages. They're like been friends since they were living in Lahti since like they were kids, and they know each other since age of 6 or something like that. So they're like brothers too. So it was funny when I sent a message to that like, hey, do you want to join if like Eki join? And it was like I got mirror image message like, yeah, I'm in. If he's in, I'm in, and like vice versa. So they were kind of like they both like Flame very much, and like I'm happy they fucking end up in the band. And I think like during these last years, we became fucking strong unit as a live band too.
And I got to say, Sacrilegious Impalement, I think that band is killer.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, definitely a killer band. And then obviously, like we said, Mika and Dr. Vomit. That's you guys. That's the lineup you guys have. And what is the first show with that lineup that you guys do?
It was probably in a small place in Helsinki, because that was in like that that COVID times. That shit was going, but there was like one like that was just before that actually when that happened. Yeah, I think so.
You guys did the Finnish Death Metal Maniacs Fest 5 with Pentacle and Sadistic Intent. Uh, and you guys did the Steel Chaos too, right? With Venom Inc. and Belphegor in 2022.
Yes, they were fucking both great experience, like Steel Chaos and Finnish Death Metal Maniacs, and yeah, those. Yeah, actually, I lent my, my guitar head to Sadistic Intent. That was fucking great night.
You guys again, 2023 play Steelfest again, and this brings us to the new record. So, when do you guys start working on the material for the new record, the new Flame release that's not out yet? So, and actually, I'll ask you when we played Deification, the Serpent's
Yeah.
Promise. That wasn't the actual recording that's going to be on the final release. Am I correct?
No, they actually, because I tried to work out with the label thing, and so basically, we recording all that stuff in, like Chris's house, like Adorior,
Yeah,
Chris's
Chris from
house.
Adorior, yeah.
Yeah, because he had in his house, like, I mean, real fucking studio these days. No, he have spent so much money in his gears. There was like
I think Jarno from Urn goes over there and does his stuff too.
Yeah, definitely. He's doing his projects there these days too. So yeah, we did that there, and like I'd just say, Chris, maybe if you want, because Chris haven't mixed anything, like before that, anything yet. So I just, like say, like maybe we should doing that kind of promo thing, should that help, and just for, like, let's try out what it's gonna be. Sounds like. But they end up pretty good. But yeah, definitely if we got that deal right now ready. So even those tracks gonna be, like being, like mixing, again, because we got that fucking esoteric guy, like Greg in his studio, and that's like where the Adorior album came out. So that was our mission to fucking get that place.
And how many songs? Like I said, I know you. Probably, I don't know what you can tell us and what you cannot because everything hasn't been announced yet. But what is the name of the new record?
Yeah, it's called Ignis Draconis Daemonicus, and it stands for like fire of a demonic dragon, and as you can say, it's kind of continuation that kind of Ignis story, that Latin phrase thing from that EP. So yeah, that's the title.
Now, are you going to use the artwork wise? Have you guys picked an artist? Or are you guys using
yeah, actually, yeah, that album art has been done actually already. Like it's actually that Antti guy from Witchcraft who did the EP cover for us, the Ignis Spiritus. He actually right now just working out the layouts, and actually all the actual art is made by my little brother. I have, or technically, like stepbrother called Tobias, and he's like 30 years old, and he's like a tattoo artist. But I actually made a suggestion to him, like, are you interested in doing the work out more visions if we work together and we start making pictures? But it's more like, I don't want to get too much, but it's more like a little bit different style that we have put up. But that's the only thing I really want to say in this point.
Now, are you and Pima handling? Is it like the same as the usual pattern for Flame? Are you guys handling most of the writing?
Yeah, that's quite a natural thing, like. But yeah, in the future, actually, we have, like probably our second guitar is gonna be involved in the future songwriting process too. So that's fucking great. But in that, on those tracks, we have working with Pima like like this far.
So the lineup on this record, as we mentioned, it's Mika, you,
Yes.
Dr. Vomit, and Pima. Is
Yes.
the lineup for Flame now in 2025. And lyrically, is it the same kind of focus has been for Flame since back in the day, or since at least 2014, say, when you kind of had a little bit of a
Yeah,
change?
it's more like it's going deeper in the, like the depth of occultism, and like, but there's like storylines going even in the back, like those. I'm really, like interesting of, like ancient Sumer and stuff like that. So ancient civilization. It's a little bit, like reflection of that too there, but it's mostly like that kind of occult, deep, left hand path, Luciferianism stuff. what is going on these days.
Do you have any song titles you can tell us? I mean, like I said, we don't, we understand if you can't, so we know how it goes.
Yeah, there's like songs like Black Flames, Divination, and Pure Damnation's Ecstasy. So there's, but in the musically, it's quite a, what I can say, it's probably like there's some surprises, of course, and mixing wise, I have quite a. I want to add there some like a little bit different elements that we have, and I really think we have opportunity now because we have a fucking great sound guy to do that.
I was
So I
going to
really
ask you,
went-
do you have your engineer and producer already set?
Yeah, it's that that Greg Chandler guy who did the Adorior album, and I think like that new Adorior album, it's a fucking killer. Like production wise.
When do you think? I know there's not exact. Well, we've already talked. I talked to you about this off the show that there's not an exact date, right? Do you have kind of an idea of when the album
Yeah.
will kind of see light?
Yeah, I actually called our label guy just a couple of weeks ago, and I asked, "You have any idea?" He said, like, I think if everything's gone right, it's gonna be early spring. So I hope that.
Do you guys have any shows? Like, what is the? Do you have anything planned coming up?
Yeah, actually, and and we're planning the show. Actually, we almost have booked one place to do the next year, but I don't want to say like at this point because they're not even 100% sure yet. But for example, that Emu from Death Metal Maniacs guy, he have contacted me and we have some plans to do it. But we have to keep in mind, like because we're not probably playing in that Steelfest this year because we were there last year. So of course we don't want a crossfire between those big happenings. So maybe in the summer, autumn, early spring, I hope the album is out then. We can organize something, and we're planning that.
And what is the, for people who don't know, like, how would you explain the Finnish scene in 2025? Because you guys have, like, obviously a rich history. I mean, anybody who looks at the bands that have come through there, as of someone who actually plays in the scene, like, what is your thoughts of it in, like, these current times?
As a whole, you mean? As a
Yeah,
whole?
as a whole in 2025,
Yeah, well, of course, like I think Finnish bands kind of are very much fucking focused to doing their own thing. Of course, there's many, like different style of bands also. But what I really like, you can see that on Steelfest, everybody fucking kind of get along so well. It's still bullshit anymore, but of course there's so many of those guys like Horna and stuff like they're so same age, and we're not that fucking stupid teenagers anymore. So we just focus in doing our stuff, like every band. So that's kind of how I see it. Yeah.
And what is your gear of choice these days? Like your guitars that you're using and your amps and stuff?
And I love angles. I have angle no head, and of course no against the Marshalls as well, but kind of that, and like, and the gear wise, like in the Flame, kind of I'm using like Boss pedals, like DD, like delay, quite simple stuff actually.
Man, well, first of all, dude, we want to thank you for hanging out with us. I'm glad you.
No
I wouldn't
problem, my pleasure. Like thank you for doing this to us. Like it's more than needed. Like this was so good promotion for us. The things to
No,
come.
dude, I wanted to get a hold of you guys probably like 6 months ago. I figured I would wait a little bit until you guys were getting ready to release it, and then I saw you put a post up recently on the Flame page saying, "Hey,
Yeah.
this is." I saw the album title. I didn't want to try to pronounce it because Ed knows how
Yeah.
that goes for
No
me.
problem.
I saw the fucking title. I was like,
yeah,
I don't
yeah.
want to try to say it, but
No problem.
because Ed knows I butcher those. But so I wanted to wait a little bit. So when I saw you guys had it, some plans to put it out, I wanted to get a hold of you.
Yeah.
And
I mean, yeah, good thinking. Good thinking.
yeah. And I know you from Urn. I know your time with the band and stuff. And
Yeah.
so I'm glad you gave us the time and came on here, man. Because I know that
No problem. My pleasure. No
have
problem.
a lot of shit going on.
Thank you. Thank you for doing this.
Oh, no problem, dude, man.
Yeah.
And when the album comes out, man, you're welcome to anytime. We have open door here.
Yeah. Let's do this again.
Yeah, and anybody who wants to find anything to do with Flame, like merchandise, like T-shirts, records, whatever, where would you send them to?
Well, it's natural choice is to go into our Facebook page, like Facebook/Satan's Flame. And of course, we have a Bandcamp page too, if you are, like want a digital discography, and there's some CDs there too, LPs, like available. But I'm gonna make some, like of course that new shirts are probably coming, so I'm gonna make on Facebook, like proper merch update pretty soon. So keep that in mind if someone is interesting.
And Primitive, when you guys put out this new record, it'll be like vinyl, correct? CD, have all the formats.
Yeah, it's CD and vinyl press. Yes.
Great, man. Well, dude, again, we appreciate it. Ed, you have anything? Ed's the gear guy, actually. So he's more of like, you have no idea what this fucking guy has. Like, you can't even see it because actually Ed's not in his usual studio. Usually there's like a mountain of gear behind him.
Yeah, I've gone digital, man, because it's so much easier.
Yeah.
So I just have a quad cortex, man, because I can have every amp. I can have every amp in existence on it. So I got tired of lugging gear around. It's too heavy. I'm too old.
Yeah. Easy peasy.
And I don't even get to play my gear anymore because now I just sing. So, it sucks.
Well, shit happens.
Yeah.
Definitely get you back on the show when the new album's out. We'll announce it and all that stuff, and anybody who, again, the songs you're hearing tonight, we're going to play a song on the way out of here. We're going to play a song called Spellfire. So these aren't the final recordings you're going to hear that are on the new album. So everybody knows these are kind of like the promos for the record.
Yeah. There's going to be different for both of those songs, promo songs. So, and hopefully, and I guarantee it's going to be lots more better, but I like those promos too. There's nothing bad with those. It's like strong atmosphere. And with Chris, like we did a hell of a good job with those. So, yeah.
Yeah. So what can you tell us about the track we're going to play out here on the way out? We're going to play the song Spellfire. Anything you can share with that?
Yeah, it's a little bit trickier, especially lyric wise. It's going to, like the idea of thing is like the tarot cards. There's tarot cards. If somebody is familiar with those, they're like tarot drums going that. It's called like Fool's Journey or Hero's Journey. It's basically like your life story, but of course, there's like my point of view is strong of that. It's not that clear, but there's definitely influence of that. But in musical wise, it's kind of epic, still trashy, very catchy song. Yeah, pure flame.
Go, man. So again, Simo, thank you so much for hanging out with us today on the Morgue.
No problem. Thank you guys very much, and really appreciate doing this. Yeah.
Be back in a minute, but we're going to play Flame, Spellfire from the upcoming album. What's it called again, Simo?
Ignis Draconis Daemonicus.
There you go. And we'll be back on the Tampa Morgue after this track, man. Thanks again.
Yeah, no problem.
This track from Flame, it's called Spellfire. We'll see you back on the Tampa Morgue after this.
across the fields of time.
And that was Flame with Spellfire, that is going to be on the new record, which you just heard all about. And we want to thank Mr. Black Venom for joining us from Flame. And Ed, as we say around here, 109 in the books.
Yeah, almost 110. Look at that.
Yeah, they're just fucking flying by. I feel like, we put up an episode and it's time to hop back on here and do it again. I really, like we always say, I never thought we'd be doing every week, but that's what it's turned into to this point. So, hey, why stop the machine if it keeps on rolling? But yeah, man, another episode, dude.
We haven't done our own episode and it's been, I don't even know how many episodes.
Like 30 something.
Yeah, so
I was looking the other day. The last episode we did was right after Jeff Manis came on from Venom Inc.
Wow.
We did one episode after that.
Forever.
Then after, actually, I do not believe, since I've been back to America last year in November, I don't believe we've done our own episode since then.
So a year, almost a year.
Yeah, almost a year.
It's crazy.
If I'm correct.
Good.
Give or take.
Good. Yep.
Yeah, so, but yeah, man, I mean, I really, I have to admit, I'm pretty beat, man. I don't know. It's like, I'm trying to think. We covered shows. We covered everything tonight, I think. Future guests.
Yeah, there's, the ending here is just to say goodbye.
Yeah.
We'll go ahead and give you the Apple, Spotify, anywhere podcast, the tampamorgue@gmail.com for correspondence. Instagram is probably the best social media spot to check our shit.
Thinking about this. People are like, hey, what can I do for the show? Well, you know what you could do? Leave us a review somewhere. I mean, I guess that gets more it kind of puts you into this. I don't know how it all works, but the better reviews you get, we've had killer reviews so far, but it puts you in this wheel and that gets you to more listeners and stuff like that. So I think right now that's probably the coolest thing you could do for the show, I guess.
Yeah, I think what it does is when people search, it pulls you up to the front.
Yeah.
Is how that works. That's what that does. So yeah, for sure.
Yeah, because we're not on the videos. I mean, we're not making like these. Like I always say, we're not personalities at all.
No, we're personalities, just not the kind you want to look at.
Yeah, so we're not trying. We don't know how. Like we're not driving. If you go on YouTube, as we were talking with Vincent Crowley last week, it's amazing. You'll see some people they have like 3,000 viewers in one day or in like hours, and I'm just like, damn, man. It's like because they're doing the videos and stuff like that, and me and Ed just don't do that. So, it's
yeah.
But we do this show and we appreciate everybody that listens. And like Ed said, you can find us anywhere you've listened to podcasts. You can contact us. We respond, the thetampamorgue@gmail.com.
Yep. If you got questions
leave us
or something, we'll read the email on an episode and answer it if we can. Yeah. I mean, unless it's something.
I have two that I have to figure out when to. Maybe next week we'll start out with one. It's just, man, there's so much shit going on. It's like,
yeah, because once the interview goes a long period, we don't want to make this end too much. As a matter of fact, we're still dragging this shit out for no reason.
Yeah, because usually we know that the show is going to go usually the average Tampa Morgue show is about 2 to 3 hours. So we know that. So,
yep. So we're going to try to keep it to where you're not listening. We're here for the interviewer or interviewee. You don't need to hear us babble anything else about stupid shit. So.
Yeah, so let's get the hell out of here.
Let's make like a tree and get the fuck out of here.
Next week, Mangus from Aberration. And then, we'll see you back on the Tampa Morgue after that. Have a good one, Webb.
You too, man.
Peace.
See ya.
This is King Fally from Deceased, and you just listened to another episode of the Tampa Morgue. Tune in next week and stay fucking dead.